Welcome back to another episode of We Bought a Mic, a podcast about movies, television, music, and sweet, sweet ketchup. Today, we're chilling and we're catching up on some new movies and shows of the 2024 summer season. Summer is rounding to a close, and we're looking back and looking forward to the fall to get ready. Welcome. My name's Ernest.
My name is Hunter, and I just found out that this whole podcast has been a trap. So
the whole time. What if the podcast is a trap? Drew's hiding out.
Trap. He's backstage during one of the 6 intermissions that happen during any given Lady Raven show.
Drew's hitting the road. He's doing double duty. He's touring with Lady Raven, and he's also stumping for RFK because RFK dropped out, and Drew's like, no. I'm still out there. RFK may have endorsed Trump, but Drew's like, no, we're on the train and we're not getting off.
Well, Drew has notoriously been very pro killing animals in public settings. So I think that's really what he's drawn to. Yeah, he's just like, anytime that you can find someone who just owns up to the mass murder of creatures in Central Park, you just got to stump for that guy.
No, we're kidding. We're kidding. Drew's a Jill Stein guy. No, he's coconut pilled. I wonder. I was very curious to ask Drew about his thoughts on the Oasis reunion. I'm very sad that he's not here. The people are clamoring. The people are shaking me on the street saying, sir, what do you think of the Oasis reunion?
I like to think that Drew definitely is like stigmatized as the one of the 3 of us who would be most excited for the Oasis reunion. Like, people just look at us and they're like, I bet that guy fucking loves Liam Gallagher.
It's either that or like Sonic 3. Like the people need the take of of Keanu as Shadow in the Sonic 3 trailer.
Yeah. Do you think he's hot? Is he hot? Yeah, is Shadow hot? Or are you more of a Knuckles guy? Do you think that like Knuckles, like you'd really want to settle down, start a family with Knuckles?
Much like friend of the show Colin, I'm no longer a fan. I'm shedding. I'm in my 30s now, and I'm shedding all desire to be a fan. And I think it's totally okay if people want to fuck the animated hedgehog, but I'm just going to do my own thing. You know, I would much rather watch marathons of Tony Scott movies on cable. The other day, they did a triple feature of Unstoppable, Deja Vu, and Man on Fire. And that's where I want to be at.
Okay.
I'm not going to judge if you want to fuck Shadow the Hedgehog. I'm done berating fans. I've been putting my place. I've been told that things are for the fans. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to watch Deja Vu and Man on Fire.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. This is this is the first time that we've just done a 2-man pod since
since the incident.
The most divisive episode in We Bought a Mic history for us saying that a movie wasn't very good, and like that being it.
Bleak. So bleak.
I'm sure that people have the same amount of vitriol for my thoughts on Sing Sing, right? There's the same level of fan that's out there.
If you go on here and you talk about how you think it's going to win Best Picture, they're like, you fucking idiot cocksucker.
Yeah. You're going to be like, I really enjoyed this show Slow Horse. And they're like, yeah, you would be, you fucking nerd. Go feel the love of a woman's touch. No, that would actually make too much sense of an insult. It's more if you didn't like Slow Horses, then they would say that.
The domination of Deadpool and Wolverine at the box office is not enough. It also has to be like sucked up into the true crime story of Wade Wilson, our Child's high school alumni.
We're gonna have to do like a whole podcast episode about our affiliation with a serial killer from our high school that is now broken into the true crime YouTube sphere that I really wish just didn't exist. But here we are.
That's going to be for the Patreon subscribers, for the real sickos, to find out whether or not we ever hung out with the Deadpool killer. The fact that they call it that, every time I see like a legitimate news story that says that convict Wade Wilson is the Deadpool killer, I just want to show that to all the people who commented on our video. Like, this is what you like.
You should just take those screen caps and just reply to every comment that comes in with that. You're like, is this your king?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, it doesn't even stop there. Did you see the thing about how they have Deadpool at Disney now?
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so glad that you brought this up. I saw this earlier today, and like I saw the fucking the spotlight meme of like they're talking just like, oh, they're admitting to doing something. It's like, no, they're bragging about it, about Deadpool reading the terms and services for Disney Plus to people because a woman fucking died at a Disney restaurant and a man tried to sue them. It was like, no. So for people who don't know, woman died at a Disney restaurant, and then the man is trying to sue the Disney Corporation. And apparently there is something in your Disney Plus subscription that if you are subscribed to Disney Plus, you are not allowed to sue the Disney Corporation at all
for any reason
without going to arbitration first, which is the most insane thing in terms and conditions I've ever heard in my entire life.
And so Deadpool has to fucking joke about it at the Disney parks, because that's the kind of society that we live in.
So
everyone has to clap. Everyone has to be so like,
it's so funny.
Anyway, we have some TV and movies that we want to talk about today. Let's start with some TV. And I think the big show of the summer that we should discuss is House of the Dragon, Hot D, as I like to call it. It wrapped up on HBO a couple weeks ago. Only 6 episodes. Was it 6 or 8?
8 episodes.
It was 8.
8. Yeah, but first season was 10 episodes. And I'm going to be honest, I thought it was 10 episodes until episode 7. And there was like season finale next week. And I was like, wait, what?
So I think I brought this show up briefly when the season began. And I paired it with The Boys and The Acolyte as kind of like the shows of the summer. And I talked about kind of where each of those kind of stood in my estimation. And I was talking about how I felt like House of the Dragon was my favorite show of the 3, but The Boys was the best show of the 3. I think that's what I said. And I don't think I agree with that now. After these seasons have wrapped up. Because I think The Boys, I wouldn't say it was bad, but it definitely stumbled a lot in this season. And I felt like House of the Dragon surprised me a lot more. And I don't know if the second season was anything close to a home run. I think that it had a lot of issues, but it kept me engaged every episode, and it managed to surprise me a lot. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the finale specifically, because a lot of people were complaining about that episode and kind of how it didn't feel like a real finale in a lot of ways. But I think the main takeaway, especially in comparison to the first season, is that the show felt much more interested in specific character dynamics and smaller arcs, and much more kind of introspective and psychological storytelling rather than like big plot machinations, because the first season takes place over the course of many, many years. And there's even a big time jump in the middle of that season. And this second season feels like it takes place over the course of a couple of weeks or months.
Yeah.
And so I found that a little jarring.
It's definitely within like a year or so, which is better from a storytelling perspective than that was, I think, not just mine, but most people's single biggest criticism with House of the Dragon season 1 is that it felt like we were watching like, I don't want to call it 10 hours of exposition, but like 5 hours of exposition that, frankly, especially after seeing season 2, I'm like, normally I hate an exposition dump, but could we have just gotten an exposition dump and have done like at least half of what it is, and then it would have not had as many time jumps and been as confusing and hard to follow and just kind of meandering. I think that season 2 kind of nailed it for what it was. You're right. It's not a home run, but I do think that season 1 felt like a show that was really trying to find its footing, and it never really fully found it. It was engaging enough that I was excited for season 2. By the time that season 2 came out, now it feels like it is fully its own show. It is not trying to be Game of Thrones over again. And I think that
despite the opening song.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess it's a banger, so you just kind of keep it. But like, I don't know. I think that a lot of people still want the show to be Game of Thrones, and it's not going to have the same light on its feetness that Game of Thrones did. Game of Thrones was one of those shows that it could go anywhere because it's just a show about like, it's about the journey, not about the destination, where you never know the characters you're going to meet along the way. And they might end up becoming an important character like the Hound, or they might just be a throwaway bit that's going to be in like 1 or 2 episodes and then go away. With this show, every person that you see on screen is there for a reason. They're there because it's almost like a Skywalker thing, where they are there because they have some kind of holy blood in them that like makes them important to the plot of the story. And I think that once you kind of accept that this is a story about a royal family and about like the ties and the fissions within that royal family, I think that this show really, really sings. I think that the writing got a lot better. I want to shout out, I had to look up who it was, David Hancock, who's done a lot of the work on The Crown, who wrote maybe my favorite 2 episodes of the season. The first one is Burning Mill, which ends with the show invention of Rhaenyra breaking back in like in disguise to the Red Keep.
Great
and
episode.
then having that whole reveal of like Alicent realizing that she fucked up and like she caused all this war. I thought that was such a genius idea to include that so early in the season, because then that adds a layer of depth to Alicent's character, where I think Alicent overall as a character doesn't really have as much to do this season. But you wrote that one, and then you wrote the penultimate episode, which is the Red Sowing, where we have the big dragon pit set piece. And
so good.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Just some good stuff in there.
Yeah, I think my biggest complaint of this show, of this season, is that I could kind of tell a little bit that the strike had impacted it. My guess is what happened is they shot the majority of the season and then the strike happened. And they were thinking, should we hold off on finishing the season? Or should we just work with what we got already? And I think there's some grayness there because a lot of these actors are British, so that they weren't on strike. But there's so much overlap that, it was impacted somewhat. So I don't have any inside knowledge is if that was actually the case, but it feels like this could have easily gone at least 1 more episode, if not 2, to finish out the story of this season. Because it honestly feels like a lot of buildup that doesn't quite have the payoff that you would want. Like literally the final moments of the season are what you would want to go into a climax. Big,
it's like we're all going to battle and it's like, see you in a year.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what? That's not satisfying.
See you in 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
It's gonna be a while.
To your point, there's just some characters that are just like in a holding pattern that feel like they're
Damon.
just like on a loading screen. Damon, and then Alan and Adam and Corliss that are just like, we're here scrubbing this ship. You know us. We're just gonna spend
on the docks again. The same
an entire
dock.
season of television just still cleaning this fucking boat. And that's literally what they do the entire season. And so it's one of those things where it's like, we have to keep checking in with these characters because everybody is important, but not everybody always has something to do. And that is a criticism that I have with this show, is like, there would be a whole episode or two stretches where like, or half a season where like, we don't know where Bran is. Bran's just off doing his own fucking thing. We don't know where Arya is. She's just doing whatever. And I think House of the Dragon, because it's like more of a tight knit group, is afraid to do that. So we have to like spend like 7 episodes of Daemon tripping balls. And it's like, I think we could have accomplished this in 3. Like, I don't think that this is diminishing returns on a lot of these scenes and sequences that we're getting.
Especially because when they do venture out, at the beginning when we went to the Wall and Winterfell, and then at the end when we went to Essos, that feels so refreshing and much more meaningful to not just the story, but the rendering of this world that we're so familiar with because of Game of Thrones. So it's not like they had to keep things so locked into King's Landing and Dragonstone and all these places. It is just because of what you said earlier of the story of this family. It's a civil war between the Targaryens, and you want to be locked into all this. But this world is massive, and there's potential to do other stories in it, which makes me curious about their plans to do that. We are getting a show called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, also known as The Tales of Dunk and Egg, the Hedge Knight. George R. R. Martin is just doing whatever he can to not write the actual books.
To just not finish the story. He's like, yeah, no, fuck it. Bran's the king, whatever. I don't care.
But I am curious to see like what that show is like, because I think there is potential to give us things with a little bit of a different tempo, a little bit of a different flavor. Maybe they'll change the intro song for that one. Who knows? So
what is the other one that's been greenlit? I know that the Night Duncan Egg.
They backtracked on a couple. There was one that was supposed to star Naomi Watts that was the story of like the beginning of the White Walkers. And they scrapped that. I think they actually shot something, and they like.
I think that's a good call. White Walkers are the most boring part about all of Game of Thrones stuff. It's zombies. Nobody cares about zombies.
I remember the scene where Daemon just like binge watches Game of Thrones. And he sees the Night King, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's that one guy that Arya kills with a knife." That's cool.
And all of that. The episode that I got on this very podcast and tried to defend. I was like, "Guys, it's not too dark. I could see it."
You know, I would love to revisit that episode on like a 4K disc. You know, that I feel like that would hit so good if I could.
I mean, I watched it I have a pretty good TV, and I watched it on there, and it wasn't terrible, but it's still filmed dark. I have the problem with we're going to talk about movie later on in this, but even something like Alien Romulus, there's sequences where I'm like, hey, I'm watching this in a movie theater and I'm squinting because it's too fucking dark. Like, we need to. You're just cheaping out on effects at this point.
I think your problem might be Regal. Because you have this complaint about a lot of movies, and I feel like it's because you go to this Regal that upgraded their seats and not their projectors.
Well,
they put all their money into the facade on the front, the outside of the building.
That's true. That's true. It's a very pretty facade on the front, though. Like, honestly, it looks like you could shoot that bitch in Regal commercials. No, it might be a Regal thing. Well, if you see something in Dolby, that's different, because Dolby just looks everything looks better.
I like to do most of the time.
Well, the problem is there's only one movie that's in Dolby in any given week. Yeah, and so that's the
fucking
problem there.
Deadpool.
Jesus Christ. I do want to say shout out to I think my two favorite characters in this show are no, I like Aemond. I almost am sad that he has so much power, because I wanted him to just continue to be power hungry without power,
right?
And like
more of an underdog,
like manic. Yeah. No, it's my boy Sir Kristen Cole.
Oh, I fucking knew it. You're
as rocks. the dumbest guy that has ever been introduced in the history of the show. He's so stupid, and I think it's really refreshing how dumb he is. I know he has PTSD.
Right. Okay. I could see myself coming around on him in season 3 because I see that turn you're talking about. But I hate this guy. Like, I fucking hate this guy. But you are right that something has broken inside this man. Like, he witnessed dragon like warfare right in front of atrocities.
Him. Like, basically the equivalent of like a nuclear bomb going off in front of him.
Yeah, and now he's just like staring off into the distance like, we're all fucked. We gave the war to the dragons. It's all over. So that I like that actor. I don't love the character. But I could see it like turning. I could see myself getting invested.
I like that because I think that, and I know that he's eventually going to have complexities because that's how storytelling works. But I think I found something refreshing of the fact of just like, he's just a dumb hot guy and he has a lot of power. And like a show like this, that's just like, he's making every wrong move possible, like every move wrong. And he's just so arrogant and proud and full of himself that it was a fun character to see whenever we flashed him of like, what dumb shit is Kristen Cole about to do next? My other one that I think is like actually probably my favorite character in the show is Lyra Strong. The little finger of this.
Yes, so good. So well written.
He is amazing. Matthew Needham. Needham. I think that like what he is doing is incredible. The way that he's playing now, the game, like, nurturing. It really is. He's playing the game better than like Littlefinger did towards the end. Like he knows how to put himself into different positions of power without ever actually being the face of that power. Because the face is the one that gets blamed for things. Like he could have tried to put himself in for the hand, but he's like, no, I'm just gonna like sit back here and just
stick around,
move the chess pieces around.
Right. You're so right. I feel like the show desperately needs that kind of character to continue to be a key part of the story, because I feel a lot of redundancies in a lot of the other characters. There's no Tyrion in this show. There's no the Hound. There's a lot of archetypes in Game of Thrones that we're not seeing in here, but that kind of conniving, maniacal, like kind of very intelligent schemer is critical to have. So yeah, overall, I think this was a good season. I think that there's a lot of improvement that can happen. I do feel like you are right. There is an attempt to make it different from Game of Thrones. I don't know if they have fully figured out how to perfect that yet, but there are very prevalent, like very obvious choices being made to differentiate this. And there's a lot of surface level stuff that I enjoy. Like, I love seeing the dragons. I think they do an incredible job rendering the look of all that. They look great. The costumes, visually, it's an incredibly watchable show. Even if some of the storytelling choices are a little inconsistent, I found myself getting like more and more invested in it as it went along. I think it, like I said, it ended a little weird, a little abruptly, but it might make my top 10 of the year. I don't know. It's kind of hovering there.
I think it's definitely like right on the cusp for me. Because I did like just really enjoy the show, and I like it's HBO's doing its thing again. Where like every Sunday night, or I should say, I don't watch it live. Every Monday morning, I was excited to check out the episode of House of the Dragon.
Lee and I watch it Sunday nights. We got invested in it.
Y'all are on point. No, it's just it's a good show. I'm excited to see like where the show goes from here.
You're not spoiled on the book, are you?
No, I don't care to do research to get spoiled.
I was talking to my brother about it. Shout out to Mo, and he like he read the wiki. He was like, I'm gonna do the deep dive. I'm gonna watch all the YouTube videos. And he was telling me that it amplified his enjoyment of it. Cause we're watching these guys at the pub, and it's like, who the fuck is this drunk guy? Why are we with this blacksmith whose daughter died? Yeah. And all the people who know are like, yo, you gotta lock in.
That's what I meant about, I've learned to just trust if you see somebody on screen and they have a line of dialogue, that means that they're important for some reason. Like, I think that I caught that first with is it Millicent? Is that her name?
Oh yeah. Yes, I know who you're talking. Who ends up like in a relationship with Rhaenyra?
Missaria, excuse me. That's a weird point. I don't really know what's going on with that, if that's going to be explored further. I hope so that's not just like a weird kiss of passion and then just goes nowhere. But I'm
glad they gave Rhaenyra something, because she was just in the same room the entire season.
Yeah, it is tougher for Rhaenyra and Alicent, because there is like, the first season is like, this is a show about these two people. And then a lot of this season, they do get sidelined to set up these other characters. And like, oh yeah, remember the Valerians from last season? They're over here. And there's all these people that are happening. There's fucking this guy, Ulf, who I'm guessing, I think that they're going to try and set up Ulf to be like the Tyrion type guy in all of this, as like the drunk kind of comedic relief character.
Him. He's cool.
I like him. I'm kind of out on Hugh. Hugh does absolutely nothing for me. He's a stock Skyrim character. Like he's a fucking NPC for me right now, and maybe that will change as the show goes on. I
smell a turn for some of these. Like these guys, the 3 new dragon riders that they got, they're not all going to stay loyal to Rhaenyra. I just don't see that happen. Why do you have 3 guys who are all like the same character? Basically, they have to they have to give each one of these characters different paths for us to be interested in them. So one of them is going to flip, I guarantee you.
Yeah, it's cool though. I like that this show is having more meat on the bone than I ever initially thought that it did. Like actually now being a show about bastards and like that kind of being like a central message of like being Team Bastard and everything. It's good. Like I'm hooked. I'm in. I'm excited for season 3. I think this was a very, very well made season of television.
It's going to be 4 seasons total. They announced that the 4th season will be the final season. So we'll check back in, I believe, 2026 when House of the Dragon returns. Will you watch the Night of the Seven Kingdoms spinoff?
Other than the last season of Game of Thrones, I've at least, even that I enjoyed. I guess it was a colossal disappointment, but I still like watched all of it. So yeah, I'll watch Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Sure.
Give it a shot.
You know what? I'm a fan. Yeah. Come for me. I'm a fan.
You're a GOT fan.
Yeah.
All right. That's House of the Dragon season 2. I'm going to do a little rapid fire here. So we don't spend too much time on these. I mentioned The Boys season 4. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. I that's another one that they announced the final season is going to be the next one, season 5. So I hope that they ended on a strong high note. I really love those characters. I felt like the season didn't do enough to keep me like fully on board.
You didn't like that it got political, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
It was always like such a down the middle show for all people before this season.
Yeah. When they started talking about January 6th, I was like, not my president. He would never. My president thumbs up the graves of Arlington Cemetery. He would never do a Jan 6. And The Acolyte, which was canceled from a season 2, which is sad because that means that Disney listens to the fans, the horrible fans that complain.
So I will say, because I know it sucks because it was like a show that was trying to do something different and it had like diverse cast and everything else. I didn't hear like anything positive about the show from like
that's the thing,
a critical perspective. So I know
it's hard to defend.
It sucks that like that happened, that you hate to see a show like somebody take a chance and it get canceled. But if the chance is bad, I kind of get it. Disney's scaling back at all of their shows.
Well, it's not just that,
and it's
bad.
not getting Obi-Wan numbers, so they're like, who cares?
I don't even know if that show got huge numbers, but it's expensive. That's the problem. And that's something that we're going to start to see with a lot of TV right now, is with the fizzling out, the basically the end of peak TV of giant shows. Like House of the Dragon is basically a show of a different era at this point.
Yeah.
There's no one that is going to try to make a show like that. It's just not, it's not feasible. And The Acolyte is on a similar level budget wise, but it's a fraction of the viewership. So Disney can't justify a second season of a show that costs the same as House of the Dragon, but gets like maybe half the viewership. It just doesn't make sense, regardless.
Dramatically less than half.
Regardless of the quality of it. So I get it, and it sucks that it feels like a reaction to the horrible, like, racist stuff that was on the comments section of every single post that Disney and Star Wars was putting out about The Acolyte. The tough thing is that, you know, TV, usually the nature of TV is for the first season to be a bit shaky. Like that is something that is very common in normal TV, where you don't have where the first season is a lot of times just bad. You know, if maybe okay at best. Look at some of the best shows ever. Like
Look at House of the Dragon, man. We just talked about House of the Dragon was a very, very up and down season that did enough to hook you on the characters. But as a season, it doesn't really work for just like one story of television.
But the nature of TV is to give you enough so that you're invested and you give it that time for it to grow and evolve and improve over time. So it sucks that The Acolyte's not going to get there. But I felt the need to shout it out. R.I.P. I also watched Shogun finally, after a few months of it being out. Loved it so much. I did struggle a little bit with the density of it. It is an incredibly plotty show, and with so much of it being subtitled, it is kind of a big ask to get fully immersed in it. You have to be in the right mind space to be like, okay, I need to lock in. I can't look at my phone. I have to like fully immerse into this world. That's part of the reason why it took me so long to get through the season. But man, I really loved it. I thought it was phenomenal and so different from almost anything else on television. It's kind of in its own tempo, its own pace. Not really adhering to too many of the rules of modern TV. Feels very classical, very kind of operatic, and dramatic. But yeah, just love that world. Love the look and the rendering of it. Just a lot of beautiful money on the screen. It was amazing.
I think that for those reasons, I'm kind of sad about coming back for another season. Like, it feels like such a complete story in a way that it feels like such a classic mini series in every like meaning of the word. Like it feels almost in conversation with something like The Pacific, where it's just like, this is the story. It's too long of a story to be like on a film. So we're just going to give it like an HBO. I know it's on FX, but give it the HBO mini series treatment of like, here's the 8 to 10 episodes of this full arc. So it's a little bit bittersweet that's coming back for more.
I think it's going to be a different like anthology type approach.
Well, have they confirmed? They haven't confirmed anything plot wise on what it is. I know that this book is like done, like they've done the book stuff, so it's all going to be original material written from here. I don't want to spoil it in case people haven't seen it, but there are characters in the show who the actors are announced to come back and they're not like alive in the story. So yeah, I think that it's going to be a different story. I think it's going to be new character approach, anthology approach. Yeah. The Fargo, if you will. There you go. Yeah. And I mean, if they do, like, I love this world that they created. That's kind of the best thing that I can say about it is that, yes, it is very dense and it's almost all subtitles. And like, whenever it is subtitles, it is like using like very like deliberate language. And it is something that you do need to be paying attention to. I think that doesn't work if they don't set up the world correctly. And this world is something that feels so real, feels so lived in. It's like all shot on location. So like that's
in Japan
is helping a lot. Like,
I mean, one of my favorite things about it is it felt like an incredibly faithful rendering of what Japan must have been like at that time.
Yeah. It feels like you are in feudal Japan. Like it really feels pretty spot on. I've
never been to Japan, but just based on the vibe of this, it feels like it really is a different world. Like the people there are so the culture is so impacted by the environment. The idea that this island is isolated and that you have this civilization bubbling up in its own isolated world impacts everything about it. The fact that your entire village could be destroyed by an earthquake at any minute and you just have to pick up the pieces and keep going. Or the fact that you believe so much in the duty that you're supposed to fulfill that if you fail, you're going to kill yourself with a sword immediately.
Or just the fact that you like, I don't want to say like that how fickle life is, but just like how much you are willing to give your life over because you agree, you believe in this idea of reincarnation and in duty and everything else. That like there's one plot point in the show that's like almost like a throwaway thing where the engine, I can't remember his name because it's been a while.
Cosmo Jarvis.
I saw it, but yeah, there we go.
That's the
Jarvis.
actor.
Where he's like hanging up like a dead animal outside of a door and just like, we're just gonna like bleed this thing, just let it sit here, and it's rotting and like stinking up the entire village. And he's like, yeah, if you take it down, you're dead. Like that's it. And somebody is just like, I'll make the sacrifice for the village, and takes it down and then kills himself for it because he told him like he disobeyed another rule that was made there. It's something that feels so foreign, and I think that's why it's very important, like that character being in the show. Because
John Blackthorne.
You need John Blackthorne to kind of give the Western perspective on all this, but he's not the lead of the show. He is the emotional crux a little bit, but it's never like a white savior story at any point in time. And maybe he's just like,
maybe I should start doing the podcast just like John Blackthorne.
This is unacceptable.
I love the show Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal. I very much enjoyed it. Yeah, so that's Shogun. Definitely will make my top 10 of the year. I don't know if it's my favorite show. I think I probably enjoyed Ripley a lot more than this. We'll see how it comes out, but it's just stellar TV. But speaking of Jake Gyllenhaal in Presumed Innocent, I gotta shout out Apple TV Plus. So I'm not going to spend too much time on these. I'm going to go through these super quick, but I have joined the cult of Apple TV Plus. I'm the owner of an iPhone for the first time in 10 years.
Is that how you're watching it? Because you got the free Apple TV Plus for getting a new iPhone?
I'm just on my phone, just watching it on my phone. Yeah. I've joined the cult of Apple, and I've decided that I'm fully Apple TV Plus pilled. I guess it technically have been because of For All Mankind. So it's like my foot was already in the door, but now I am so locked in. I watched every episode of Dark Matter and Presumed Innocent. Dark Matter is a show based on a book by Blake Crouch is the name of the author, and he is also involved in the show. He's like one of the main producers on it. So he's like an adapting your own show type of thing. It stars Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Connelly. And Joel Edgerton basically plays this. It's so hard to describe this show without like really giving away all the twists and turns, but I'll give away kind of the main premise that you find out in the first episode. Essentially what happens in this show is Joel Edgerton is a professor at a school, at a university, and he teaches physics. And one day he is abducted and he is put in this box. And he comes out the other side and he's in a different world. And in this world, he's a famous scientist who has invented a box that allows you to travel to other dimensions. And he has no memory of what happened, how he got here. All he knows is his previous life with his family, his wife, and his kid. But everybody seems to think that he's this famous scientist. So what you find out is that this alternate version of him is the one who abducted him and switched places with him so that he could live the life with Jennifer Connelly and the son, the humble life of the professor. So that's basically the setup. Is I've been abducted by my alternate self and taken to an alternate reality. And now I have no idea what the fuck I'm going to do or how I'm going to get back home. So it kind of goes off from there. And I don't want to give specifics of exactly what happens, but it was so fun. Such a fun show. Not perfect. Definitely like a little campy, a little schlocky, but it has an energy to it. It has a pace to it that really just it really sucked me in. And apparently they're doing a season 2. So from what I hear, this first season is a perfect adaptation of the novel. So there's no source material for a follow-up. But I'm there because I really enjoyed these performances. I really enjoyed the ideas in the show because, as we all know, we're very oversaturated with multiverse right now. So it kind of feels like, what is the point of a story like this? Is it just going to do the same kind of thing that we've seen in like things like Spider-Verse or Everything Everywhere All at Once? And yeah, there's some overlap. There's some stuff you recognize, but by the end, it feels like this is a very unique take on the now like the subgenre of sci-fi of like multiverse storytelling now.
Okay.
So I really recommend it. It's Dark Matter.
Yeah, you sold me on it. For some reason, I just kind of thought that this show was kind of like Severance in a lot of ways. Like I knew that it had something to do with like body switching and double identities and everything. I was like, it's just like the other Apple TV show, Severance. But what you're describing makes it sound like it's a lot more sci-fi and also more like light on its feet than something like Severance.
Exactly.
That's very psychological.
Yeah, and the sci-fi is obviously very out there, but it doesn't feel fantastical. It always feels grounded in science, which is the best kind of sci-fi, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what you want.
So yeah, very fun. If you do give it a shot and it doesn't grab you by the beginning, give it until like maybe episode 3 or 4, because it kind of does take a little bit to kick into a higher gear. The first couple episodes are much more about kind of letting you get to know the characters and the basic rules of how this works before it all starts to really get crazy. It doesn't really get going until later, which I think is for the better, because you're actually invested in what these characters are going through, and you know, because it takes the time to set all that up.
Nice. I'm intrigued.
Presumed Innocent on Apple TV Plus is another show I watched. A show I watched in one day. It was the day of the finale. The day that the finale was coming out. And I was like, you know, I've been hearing people talking about this show. I know the basic premise. It's based on this movie that Harrison Ford was in.
Have you ever seen the movie?
No. I think it's 1990, Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I I've seen this movie whenever I was a kid because I think my mom was a big fan of this movie. Like it's like classic like mom movie.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's a
if you're
movie.
a TNT mom,
Most Harrison Ford movies from that era are classic mom movies, honestly.
yeah,
But it's a famous like twist, like a big twist ending is one of the hallmarks of the film. And so going into the finale, I was like, man, I feel like people are going to be talking about this online after this finale. So I was like, all right, it's time. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to lock in. I'm going to binge this thing. And oh boy, I could not stop watching this show. This is the good shit. The good shit. I mean, it's kind of like Dark Matter. It's like kind of schlocky a little bit. There, Apple is finding this groove of like very high grade slop. It's not quite slop. It's like right on the edge of being slop, but it's very well produced, just like schlocky, incredibly watchable television. It's not trying to be Shogun, right? It's not trying to be this like high end luxury product. But you get it fucking Jake Gyllenhaal, you know? It's you get this incredible star power at the center of it, and it is just magnetic, dude. It drew me in every little bit. I was just chomping at the bit for everything. The extended cast is great too. Ruth Negga, Peter Sarsgaard, Bill Camp is in there too. The plot, gets twisty. It's a murder, mystery, crime, legal thriller type of thing. So there's lots of red herrings, and you're always thinking like, did Jake actually kill Renata Rensev from The Worst Person in the World?
our girl. Yeah.
And you there's something about Jake, right? It's like
I think that this feels like perfect.
He could be a murderer.
Yeah, it's almost just like it's similar to the Ben Affleck casting in Gone Girl, where you like kind of look at him and you're like, oh yeah, no, that guy could definitely kill a woman. Like that's especially like I love Jake. He's one of my favorite actors. When you consider all the personal of everything with Jake Gyllenhaal, then it feels like good casting for him. But I'm just happy that he's back doing something good. When's the last time that Jake Gyllenhaal has been in something good? Was it Nightcrawler?
Ambulance, Rise Up. Ambulance, Heads Rise Up.
Okay. But like he is amazing in Ambulance. He is one of my favorite supporting performances of the year. Ambulance is a movie. I don't know if that movie I would call great. I've heard great things about Presumed Innocent.
It's so good, dude. I cannot recommend it enough. I mean, like I said, it's not perfect. It's not trying to be high art, but television shouldn't try to be that all the time. It's like we can't expect every show to be Game of Thrones, right? It's okay for a show to just be good, to just be like flat good and entertaining and watchable. I couldn't ask for anything else. And then Jake Gyllenhaal just giving an incredible performance at the center of it. And again, to shout out Peter Sarsgaard, he's like the guy on the other side of the bench, essentially arguing, trying to prove that Jake is the killer, and then Jake trying to defend himself on the other side of that. So it's a lot of lawyers lawyering. And there's
from
a lot
bygone era, the 90s, the 90s legal thriller.
Exactly. And there's a lot of fun in that, but there's a lot of other little things too outside of the courtroom that are incredibly intriguing. There's just a lot of texture to this show, and yeah, it was just very addictive. So love Presumed Innocent. Just to shout out, since you brought up Jake's other recent work, he was also in Roadhouse this year. So that's what he's been up to. No.
Did you see?
No.
Do you remember I have not seen Roadhouse either. I just love that whenever Roadhouse came out, that was whenever the story came out that like people talking about Jake Gyllenhaal's like a nightmare to work with and he's terrible. And it had my favorite quote that like I've ever heard somebody say, where it was about an indie movie that he was working on that fell apart because of Jake just being like an absolute nightmare on set. And I don't know what the movie was, but it was filmed near the ocean. And he would frequently, like in between while they're actively shooting, strip down to his underwear and say, "When I see the sea, I swim in the sea," and then just dead sprint into the ocean.
Yes.
And like, that's my king right there because I have the same energy.
That's going to be you this weekend.
That's going to be me like tomorrow at 6 p.m. It's
Hell
just
yeah.
dead sprinting into the ocean.
All right. Last Apple show I got to shout out is Slow Horses, starring Gary Oldman. This show is fucking incredible. This gets my highest recommendation of anything I've talked about so far. This is truly like the best of both worlds. It is like the schlock, just good watchable entertainment, and also like well-made art. And it never feels like a chore. It never feels boring. It never feels like you're being demanded to watch something that's not interesting. But man, now in its third season, it's like this show is cooking. Absolutely cooking. So the basic premise of Slow Horses is essentially, what if Ethan Hunt made a mistake in a mission and he fucked up so bad that he was like demoted and kicked out and put in like the bottom of the barrel, essentially like relegated to being a laughingstock. That's like the basic premise. Essentially, like the opening scene of this show is we see our guy River Cartwright. I don't know the actor's name. This show is full of just like British people. It's essentially just like a British show. It's shot in London, in and around
Jack
London. Yeah, Jack Loudon. He's playing essentially like
Dunkirk.
He's playing basically an Ethan Hunt type character. And in this opening mission of the first episode of the show, he makes a terrible mistake. Terrible mistake. And the consequences of that mistake are that he then gets put into Slough House with the slow horses. So all these other people who have fucked up, all these other spies who have fucked up, and they're all essentially done in their careers. But the show is not interested in as much as like giving you a cool spy thing. It's much more like just hanging out with these characters, going on missions, and not trying to be this like cool, sleek James Bond type thing. It's very much just like, we're doing our best. We're trying to be spies. But we're kind of, you can tell that we're like not even the B team. We're kind of like the C or the D team. But every once in a while, it's those guys that save the day.
So is it like just the missions that they go on are just much, much lower scale and lower stakes? Is that kind of what it is?
Okay. Yeah, it's that kind of thing. So each season, this being British, each season is just 6 episodes, which is amazing.
That's great. Love to see that. Yeah, absolutely love to see that.
Just 6 episodes, perfect little tales. And the first season is about a hostage situation, and them trying to rescue this hostage. Second season is about these like Russian sleeper agents, and the third season is about a dark secret that the spy agency has, and a file that is going to get leaked, exposing this horrible dark secret that the agency has, and the lengths that some of the people in at the top might go to make sure that file doesn't get out. So you get these nice little, very, very direct, very easy to understand stakes, and you're kind of just off from there. And the entire 6-episode run revolves around solving that inciting incident. But the real good stuff is just these characters. That's what you're here for. Gary Oldman as Jack Lamb is, I think, one of my new favorite characters in television. Like, this dude is just on fire with this character. He smells so bad. You can smell every time he is on screen. You can smell this guy. He hasn't showered. He smokes cigarettes and drinks whiskey. He farts a lot. Like, this character, the first time you see this character, he wakes himself up from farting. That's the introduction to Jackson Lamb. So
just a stinky guy.
He's a stinky guy. It's phenomenal, dude. And Slow Horses is back for season 4. Next week it starts. And they got Hugo Weaving coming in as the heavy. Okay. So our Slow Horses are in for a big 4th season, going up against Mr. Agent Smith himself. I can't wait. I really love this show. I'm so glad I caught up with it.
I'm really excited to take the deep dive into the show. I'll support anything that our boy Mank will do. And you know what? He just Gary Oldman's just a stinky looking guy. Yeah. Like, he just like, look at him. Look at that beard and that hair combo. Like, he looks sweaty all the time. So I like to hear that a show is such a great energy.
Like, he's so throwaway with it. He is just, he's so over
and letting him play British. I feel like Gary Oldman never gets to actually be British anymore, unless he's playing like Winston Churchill. Like, let our boy just embrace his roots and not have to do an English accent.
It sucks that Apple shows are so low viewership, because it's like we have Jake Gyllenhaal and Gary Oldman in 2 of the best roles they've done in many, many years, in like maybe decades, honestly. And nobody's watching them because they're on a streaming service that nobody has. Unless you just bought an iPhone like me.
Well, luckily people keep buying iPhones. The Apple TV is just like, please, giving away subscriptions. It's a thing of like, occasionally I'll just get an email that's just like, congratulations, you have another 6 months free of Apple TV Plus. That they're just like, please just watch our service. Like, I have an Apple TV at our house, and I just added like Gaia to give her own user account. It's like, congratulations, here's more Apple TV Plus. I'm like, I just made a profile. Like, that's it. I didn't do anything. They're just trying to get people to watch their shows, and I'm fine with it because they're making good shit.
So that's Slow Horses. I am officially Apple TV Plus fully pilled. Before we get into the movies that we've watched, I wanted to do a little mini game, a little exercise of the fall hype meter. Just looking at the year ahead, the few months ahead as summer comes to a close. And I just wanted to get your gut reaction, Hunter, of some of these items that I've written down. 1 to 5, 5 being like you were there day one, you're so excited and you're so confident that it's gonna be not just good, but like satisfy your excitement for it.
I'll definitely watch it. And that's not, I don't watch as much. I don't watch nearly as much TV as you, but just in general, like it's got to be a lot. If I'm just like, I'm there 100% all in, I'm watching it no matter what.
And then 1 being like, absolutely not, hard pass.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just going to go through these real quick. All right. Survivor 47.
Oh, 5. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. At this point, like, now I'm sure you are seeing the same thing, and other people who are Survivor fans, of all of the fan casting that's happening for Survivor 50.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back and like watch every season of Survivor now at this point, like fill in at least all the big gaps so that I will know all the characters whenever they come back for 50.
Yeah, well, when they announced the cast, for sure.
Yeah. It's 100% got to do it. Can't wait for it.
The Penguin on HBO. Colin Farrell, Academy Award nominee.
What is the creative team that's behind this show?
And Matt Reeves is involved. I don't think that he's the main guy.
So I'm at like a 3.5 on this show. I really want it to be good, but also I could see this being kind of throwaway, where it's like Colin Farrell is fun, but the show overall is nothing. I could also see it being great. So,
I mean, the Batman was great.
I'm hedging. He was great in it. He was great in it. Yeah.
It comes from someone named Lauren Lefranc. I don't recognize the name.
I wonder, so is the idea for the show, and I haven't seen like any trailers for it or anything, is it going to be almost like Kingpin style, just like I'm setting up a crime cartel? Is it the origins of Penguin? Like
it picks up right after the Batman. It is like a direct follow-up to the Batman. I'm sure it'll loop back on the history of this Gotham and all the crime families in there. But it is a direct continuation of the film.
Yeah. Where are you at on Batman, on the Penguin?
I'm at a 4. Okay. I'm there. I just don't. There's nothing to tell me that it's gonna be a home run. Like I don't see it being like that. But I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to see Colin Farrell. Craig Zobel is the director of, I think, every episode, at least the first half of the season. And he did a bunch of episodes of The Leftovers.
So that's something right there. Craig Zobel actually is like a director with like, he's got an eye. So that's good. That gets me excited.
Dune Prophecy, another HBO entry.
I know that Denis has no involvement in this show. He might be exec producing it or something, but that's literally just slapping his name on something. Right. I'm a little bit lower on this one, I think. I want it to be good, but I'm probably at like a 3. And that's saying somebody who's become pretty Dune-pilled, not as Dune-pilled as you. I'm not slurping up spice, but
I'm actually
so got a lot of changes.
I'm so Dune-pilled that I'm actually going to go a little lower. I might go 2. Wow. I'll still watch it, but I basically have like almost no confidence that it's going to be good. But I'll still watch every episode.
The thing is that the behind the scenes of this show, like getting made, hasn't been great, because originally it was going to be a Rebecca Ferguson show, and then she dropped out, and then it was going to be like it's gone through a bunch of different iterations, which makes me almost wonder if they like maybe they might have tried to rush this a little bit, of just like, we gotta have something else in the same year as Dune 2, since we know that that's going to be this big box office draw. And I don't know. We'll see. I hope
Agatha All Along on Disney Plus.
A 1.5. Here's the thing. I really, especially like in hindsight, I think that WandaVision's great. Like for what it is, I think that WandaVision is such a unique idea, and it had a vision and a voice behind it. I never watched WandaVision and came away from it being like, Agatha show, give it to me. Right. Like I never had that feeling whatsoever. And I don't really know anybody who felt that directly from that. Of like, cool,
it's supposed to be a spooky Halloween themed thing. So I'll go like maybe a 2 just because of that. Just because it seems like it's going to try to do some kind of like spooky season theme thing. The franchise,
I hope that's fun, but I'm not expecting it to be great or anything.
The franchise was a show that I think Drew drafted when we did our hype draft at the beginning of the year. It's the new show from Armando Iannucci. It's supposed to be a like a satire of the production of a superhero movie, of like the film crew behind the scenes of a superhero movie.
I remember this.
It's going to be on HBO.
It's going to be on HBO. I'll give it like a 2.5, because I don't really know anything about this show. Like I forgot that this was coming out until you just mentioned it now. But I do love like Armando Iannucci
and Sam Mendes.
Oh, well, luckily Sam Mendes has never produced anything bad. I feel like Sam Mendes, if you took all of his movies and aggregated them out, they would come to 2.5, so 2.5 stars. So I'm going to give this 2.5 stars of excitement. Myself.
Star Wars Skeleton Crew.
0. No, I think like, I guess a 1. The thing is that I do like that this looks like it's a show for kids.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars is a franchise for babies, and I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but like it is. And like you can also be a baby about things. I can be a baby about things. Like it's fine. Like kids entertainment can be good. I'm not saying that as like an indictment on it, but also it's kids entertainment. That it is what it is. Just embrace that part of things. You can have Andor, and that can be like an exception to the rule, but otherwise, like it's just people wearing fucking capes with lightsabers. Like who cares?
What if Star Wars but suburbs? Basically, is what the show is.
Yeah.
Jude Law, get your check. Get that check, man. This show is supposed to have episodes directed by the Daniels, amongst some other high name.
That's fun.
Profile people. So.
The chances that I'm going to watch this show are next to none. But that's not an indictment on the Daniels or anybody else.
Get those checks.
Fun show. Yeah.
American Sports Story, Aaron Hernandez on FX.
Oh man. So the thing is that I think that the American stories are kind of tapped out. Like I think that we've exhausted the well.
Yeah, this is the first sports one. They're like doing a hard turn out of crime.
I'm sure that's gonna kind of be like, crime is gonna be involved. Aaron Hernandez fucking killed dudes. Like that's not like there's definitely crime there.
I wonder why they're not just keeping the American Crime Story banner on this, because it's like it might as well be. I think they're just gonna try to trick people, and it's gonna be like, oh, we just did another crime story here. Just change. I mean,
it's still Ryan Murphy. It's Ryan Murphy shit. The thing is that like I'm giving the show like a 1 or a 1.5. I'm probably not going to see it. And I very closely, as a Patriots fan, am very knowledgeable of the Aaron Hernandez atrocities and all of that happened, like living through it and then seeing actual like documentaries and people talking about it. You know what? I'm not going to watch it. And I think that one of the reasons is because I'm still fucking mad at a show that I never talked about on the podcast, but The Dynasty, the Patriots Apple TV.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Series. That I think started promising, and then it becomes one of the most biased things that I've ever seen in like a documentary before.
Just propaganda.
It's propaganda for the owner of the Patriots, which it's like nobody's relating to the billionaire owner of the Patriots. And the whole time he's like, it was just me and Tom Brady. We were out there really winning the Super Bowls. And it's very anti-Belichick. And at one point, Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, his son makes the implication that Belichick knew that Aaron Hernandez was a murderer and still drafted him anyways, which was like, I think at that point I was like, I'm turning off the show. Like this is clearly like you have vendetta out and you're just making like a hit piece and you got $10 million an episode from Apple to air out your grievances. So a 1 for me. I'm not going to watch the show.
Okay, here's a big one. Another Apple entry. Disclaimer from Alfonso Cuarón, starring Lydia Tarr herself, Cate Blanchett. When an intriguing novel appears at the bedside of a journalist whose career has been built on revealing transgressions, she is horrified to realize that she is a key character in a long-buried story, one that exposes her darkest secret.
1.5.
Really? Wow. You're not here for Cuarón?
Listen, I know that we are blowing a lot of smoke up of Apple TV Plus's ass right now. They also produce a lot of expensive shit made by expensive people that is just not very good.
Hey, Napoleon Director's Cut out now.
I hope that it's good. Like, I like Cuarón. Wish nothing for the bet for. I know if we're betting on like how good this is going to look, then it's like a 4. Because Cuarón has never shot anything that looks bad. But like, how excited am I about it? I don't know. That logline doesn't really do much for me. It's a wait and see.
Okay. Well, all right. Here's one you'll definitely be excited
Where are you
for.
at, like a 3? I know that's one of your boys, Coron.
Honestly, I'm at a 4.
You're there. You're all the way.
I am hungry.
You are so apple pilled right now.
I'm so apple pilled, and we haven't gotten anything from Cuarón since Roma 2018.
You're right.
It's been like 6 years with nothing from Cuarón, so I just want to see whatever he's been cooking. All right, you'll definitely like this one. The Walking Dead: Daryl Dixon - The Book of Carol. That's got to be an instant 5 from you, right?
So here's the thing. Can I go negative? Can you take away the knowledge that the show is coming out from my brain? Why are we doing this? I thought, do people care about The Walking Dead anymore? Isn't that like really like 2015? Who the fuck still cares about The Walking Dead?
I guess Death Stranding isn't paying the bills for. Wait,
is that starring the guy from Death Stranding?
Yeah. Oh, I'm quickly realizing like how bleak this exercise is, that like the strikes destroyed the TV slate so much this year that there's like nothing coming out.
Yeah, it's but hey, you never know. There's gonna be hidden gems. Like we felt this way about a lot of the movie calendar, and like looking at my top 10 as it's been getting there, I'm just like, oh no, there's actually been some movies that I really like this year that have come out. So just not as many big old heavy hitters late in the year.
Okay, here's one. Squid Game season 2 on Netflix.
I never saw the first Squid Game.
Oh,
first season of Squid Game.
You never caught it. Okay.
It was one of those things
you missed the boat.
It's a classic. It was the classic Netflix thing where it came out. Everybody was talking about it for like a month straight in like October of 2020, 2021, whatever it was. And like, I just didn't see it. And then the conversation had passed and I was like, I guess I just won't see it now. I might check it out. I'm interested.
I honestly don't know what they're going to do with a season 2. I feel like they're probably just going to run it back and just it's going to be like a remake of the first
The story is just one of those things you can just kind of do forever, like that same bit.
Yeah. Okay, last couple here. What We Do in the Shadows. The final season.
I've started rewatching through it, so this is like a 4.5 for me. Nice. I started rewatching through because I missed the last season. Or maybe the last 2 seasons actually at this point. I
think this is season 6 is the final one.
Yeah. I think that I missed 4 and 5. So I'm starting to rewatch through all of it just in time for spooky season. I'm very excited for it. This is a great show.
A show that gets better and better as it goes on.
Yeah.
Like they just nailed those characters. Last one is a show that I just discovered even existed just now, but I think is definitely intriguing, is called A Man on the Inside. It's a Good Place reunion on Netflix. Ted Danson and Mike Schur. Charles is a retired man who gets a new lease on life when he answers an ad from a private investigator and becomes a mole in a secret investigation. Could be fun.
I'm at 3.5. I'm excited. Mike Schur knows how to write at least like at minimum the first few seasons of a television series. Like he knows how to hook you. He knows how to nail concepts. And I don't really think he's had a miss yet. So I'm excited for that. I didn't know this was a thing that was coming out.
So kind of a sad selection there on the TV side. Not the most like heavy hitting fall slate, but we'll see how it shakes out. On the movie side, I have a list that I think might be a little bit more exciting. So let's go through those. Beetlejuice.
I'm at like a 4.5. I'm excited for this movie. I think it's gonna be good. Here's the thing. I'm going into Beetlejuice with the same mindset that I did going into Twisters, which is that like I'm not expecting a movie that's gonna shake the world. I just want a movie that's gonna be like really fun. I have my tickets for this Saturday to go see Beetlejuice. I'm looking forward to it. I hope that's good. Where are you at with Beetlejuice?
I mean, just seeing Justin Theroux on the big screen is a 5.
Yeah, so that's enough for you.
That's already on there. The other day, I looked at Tim Burton's last like 10 years.
That's the thing.
And I'm like, it's not awful. Like, he's had some good stuff in there, but man, it's just not what you want. It's not what you
Last
want.
10 years. So what? So that's Dumbo. That's
Yeah,
Big
his
Eyes.
last movie was Dumbo.
That's Dumbo. That's Big Eyes. That's Mrs. Peregrine's Peculiar House of Children, whatever that one is.
Corpse Bride.
Corpse Bride isn't great. I wanted to be like a defender of Corpse Bride for a long time, but as somebody who watches Nightmare Before Christmas approximately like 50 times a year, Corpse Bride just is not great.
Actually, Corpse Bride was 20 years ago. Let's see. So yeah, let's go back. So Dumbo 2019, Miss Peregrine 2016, Big Eyes 14, Frankenweenie 2012, Dark Shadows 2012.
Frankenweenie's fun.
Alice in Wonderland 2010.
Two Alice in Wonderland movies.
He didn't direct the second one though.
Oh, he didn't? Oh, okay.
No. And then Sweeney Todd 07, Corpse Bride 05, Charlie and Chocolate Factory 05, Big Fish 03. So you'd have to go all the way to 2003 for like, I know you're a big Sweeney Todd defender.
I'm a Sweeney Todd defender. Yeah. But I mean, Sweeney Todd is fun because it's campy and like, it's not like a masterful made movie. So yeah. So we're at 20 years since he's made a great movie. That's
a lot of people love Big Eyes. I don't think I've ever seen it. Maybe I'll check it out.
Not either.
But that's
I
another
like
one
Big
that people
Fish.
point to. Oh yeah, but again, that's 2003. So it's like
no. I'm just saying maybe he's just whenever he makes something that's big.
Oh yeah, maybe it should have been called
2 for
Big.
2.
It should have been called Big Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Okay, Nosferatu.
6. I'm so there. I'm beyond there. They're playing in October, I think.
The Witch.
I think they're playing both The Witch and The Lighthouse in IMAX.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking there.
No, dude. Northman.
It's our boy.
Like,
yeah, kind of surprising how they left that one off there. I know that's because it's A24 stuff, but also it's like, did the Northman come out?
Yeah, they played the trailer before Alien, and I was like, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
Here for it.
The Vampire. Nosferatu. Okay, Anora, the new Sean Baker.
5. I'm there for it. Our boy hasn't made a miss, and this movie won the Palme d'Or. Like
it's coming. Anora is coming.
The idea that fucking our guy Sean Baker could go from making Florida Project to Red Rocket to making possibly a Best Picture nominee is just a crazy arc, and I'm so all here for it. Yeah.
Mufasa, The Lion King, the new Barry Jenkins film.
I can't give it a 1 because it's Barry Jenkins, but it's very low. It can't go higher than a 2.
Right. It's like maybe like a 1.5, honestly.
Here's the thing, dude. Like they played the trailer before. What did I go see recently? I don't know. I went to go see a movie and they played the trailer beforehand and it looks bad. Like not even just like the movie looks bad. Like the visual effects don't look great, man. It's
the same as the last one. It's like you can't connect with just a lion. How is that a character that you can be invested in?
It doesn't look good. I don't really know. I mean, Barry, get them checks, my guy. Like if this is going to pay for you to make
the next thing.
Yeah, if this will pay for you to make another If Beale Street Can Talk, then might go with God and do your thing.
I will finally watch The Underground Railroad. I'm going to do it.
You'll do it? Is that the cost? Like Barry Jenkins is like, nobody watched The Underground Railroad, so I have to make fucking Mufasa. I hope that you're happy.
I got to do it. I can't let this movie make $1 billion and not have the statistics of who watches that show not be impacted.
I'm changing my ranking. It's a 1. I can't get behind this. I'm sorry, Barry.
Did you hear that they're infringing on the lore of The Lion King? That they're changing the backstory of Scar?
Yeah, because it was a whole thing in people, the fans were coming out. People who watch Simba's Pride, the TV show on Disney, are just like they already told this story and it's different. It's like, who cares?
Mufasa was not adopted. He didn't do that. Sonic 3, we brought it up earlier.
0. I've never seen a Sonic movie. It's too late now. I'm excited for
but
our
he
boys.
does the Akira slide in the trailer. Shadow does the Akira bike slide.
I don't. It's missed me. I'm gonna be honest. I was never a huge Sonic fan. Like Sonic kind of missed me as a franchise. Sonic Heroes and Sonic Adventure 2 are both bangers and classics. Otherwise, all Sonic games are kind of the same thing.
Just run fast.
They're all just the same thing. You just kind of run around and get the fucking rings and then defeat the Eggman. Yeah. Like that's kind of just it. And sometimes you take care of chows. And
sometimes you ride around in a car with James Marsden. That's all the kids love that part of the Sonic video games.
Honestly, if the entire movie was just hanging out in a car, if it was just Benny Schwartz and James Marsden hanging out in a car, then I would be at 5. I would be all there for it.
Kraven the Hunter, a movie that still has not come out for some reason.
Was it supposed to? Oh yeah, it's like this movie. Here's the thing. How late in the game can a studio decide to just like can a movie?
Right. It might. They should just not even.
What if it just Sony just is like, whoopsie, we accidentally deleted the file. Oops. It's not coming out now. Sorry.
So it's a 1.
It's a 0. Yeah, 1. Yeah, whatever. I haven't seen the Venom movies, and I know that like Venom Let There Be Carnage is on there.
Venom, The Last Dance.
The Last Dance, excuse me.
That's at least a 3 for me.
I was gonna say, I actually kind of want to watch through the Venom movies because they seem like they're a lot of fun. And
they are.
That's what I want.
Yeah,
it's our boy Tom Hardy just being insane.
Yeah,
which is honestly what you want to see. I want to see Tom Hardy being insane. I don't want to see like a neutered Tom Hardy. Bikeriders.
You can't have them.
Ban it down. The symbiote. We got to burn it down.
Point it down. Joker 2, Fully Ado. Come on.
I mean, I'm going to see this movie for critical purposes. I'm not excited for this movie whatsoever. What's the feeling that I felt whenever I reluctantly went to a screener of Deadpool and Wolverine? Because I have a similar feeling about this. I think this movie will have more craft behind it, whatever that means. 1.5.
Oof. Brutal for Todd Phillips.
I think the first Joker sucks, and I'm sorry. And you guys can come for me and say that like I'll never know what the inside of a woman feels like because I don't like the character of the Joker, but I don't think those movies are very good. I don't think Todd Phillips has any kind of eye for directing. Sorry that he figured out that you can draw a little smiley face and then frame the character moving over in front of it so it's like he smile.
The trailers are weird.
That sucks.
I can't tell like what the movie is from the trailers. It doesn't give me a good idea of like what's happening. So I still don't know what to make of it.
I mean, I could see it going either way, where I could see this. I could actually see, I joke, but like I try to go into any movie, even something like Deadpool and Wolverine, with an open mind. And I could see this movie being better than the first Joker. I could also see this movie being a fucking disaster too. Yeah. So like it could go.
It's a big swing
over the place.
Yeah. So they could just miss horribly. Okay. Gladiator 2.
I'm at like a 4. Okay. I'm ready. I'm here for late stage Ridley. I don't care what the haters say. I put on my House of Gucci sunglasses.
Yes.
And just block out all the fucking haters.
Let's go.
Nothing can stop me. I'm
into
here
the Coliseum.
I'm ready for it. The Coliseum filled with water. Let's go. I'm ready for it. Also, like the fact that like I do think that Ridley is weirdly pretty precious about like his signature IPs. Like there's a reason why he's still fucking tinkering with Blade Runner cuts to get his ideal version of it. I don't think that he would just go back to Gladiator just for shits and giggles or for like a last paycheck. I think that he definitely has been saying on this for a long time and has been trying to get all the pieces together. And there's a reason why like Denzel is signing up to be in this. Paul
yeah,
Mescal
Denzel
is
said
like,
that it's like one of the best movies he's ever done, or something like that.
I'm all here for it. Like, let's go, dude. It's gonna rock.
Megalopolis, A Fable by Mr. Francis Ford Coppola, a movie with no controversies, not a peep from the marketing.
And well, it fortunately has like such a great, like, wholesome, uncancelable director behind the helm who
He
like has
Jack.
never like
Can't cancel him.
Guy who made
Jack.
He's never like came onto women too strong or like given unsolicited hugs. Where are you at with Megalopolis, Ernie? Where are you at with this?
I have a stake. I sold part of my wine business to finance this film. So I'm kind of like tied up in it. So I might have to abstain from rating it or just do the obligatory 5 with a disclaimer on it.
I can't go lower than a 4 just because of pure intrigue. Because like this is like the most fascinated I am for a movie that's coming out this year. Because again, it could go all over the place.
Yeah, people out of Cannes were like, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and that's why you have to watch it. Like you have to see it to believe it. So yeah.
Is it true the whole rumors that there has to be like an audience involvement piece?
I don't know how they're going to do that. I just don't see that.
There has to be like an industry plant in every
to interact with the screen,
to interact with the movie.
That's just not going to work.
That's like the idea of somebody going to like bumfuck nowhere, South Georgia for a screening of Megalopolis to like
there's like 5 people in the theater. Oh man,
it's so cool. I'm excited just to see what happens here, where this goes.
Saturday Night, the new Jason Reitman film about Saturday Night Live, starring a whole bunch of up and comers.
I hope that this is good. It's got a great cast. I honestly I was not expecting this movie to come out this year at all. I really, really thought this was going to get pushed to next year. I'm excited for it. I love Jason Reitman. Our Tully heads rise up. Juno heads rise up.
Up in the air. He's done some good stuff. I mean, he's been stuck making Ghostbusters movies, but
yeah, that's not so great. It's for his dad though, so I guess you got to like give him a pass for that. 3 and a half.
I can agree with that. I mean, the cast is nuts. It's like Gabriel Abel, Rachel Sennett, Corey Michael Smith, who was just in May December as Chevy Chase. Like that's such a crazy casting right there.
Gabriel Abel going from playing Steven Spielberg to Lorne Michaels is insane. Like
that's
one of
so
the best
crazy.
1-2 starts to a career that you can ever have for playing like biopic. Like I don't know where he goes from here. He can't just like be a character actor now.
Nicholas Braun is apparently playing Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson. You also got J.K. Simmons, Willem Dafoe, Matthew Rhys. Like this could be big.
You know, I'm at a 4. I'm at a 4 because I think that at a minimum, I think this is going to be a lot of fun, even if it's not like amazing, incredible.
Yeah.
Do you think that this, like the theory that this is coming out now because this is going to be in conjunction with Lorne retiring for season 50?
A lot of people are saying this. Yeah, that it's season 50. It's going to be a big party.
It's all lining up together that they're just trying to do this now as like this one big celebration of Saturday Night Live.
I mean, I could see it, but I mean, I could also see it being a situation where it's like he wants to retire, but he doesn't want to end the show. Yeah. So then it's like
Colin Jost is like, come on, retire. Retire, give it to me. I'm Colin Jost. I'm in Tahiti right now surfing.
I don't even know who you put in there. A lot of people are saying Tina Fey. I just don't even know if she would want to do that.
Tina Fey apparently has been vying for it for a while. She's been like involved in like the upper level. So I think it's probably between her. It's between her, Colin Jost.
Maybe Seth
Some
Meyers.
people thought Mulaney. That's totally like, no, I don't think that at all. Seth Meyers, maybe. I don't really know. I could almost see them going for more of like a board than anything to replace Lorne, and like just bring on a couple different people, like Tina and Colin as like co-CEOs, basically.
Maybe bring Sandberg and the rest of the Lonely Island boys back.
Yeah, sure. Just what are they doing right now? Come on, get back in here.
Not Popstar 2. Wicked.
So I'm gonna see this day one. I think that this is gonna be good. Okay. And if it's not, I already know now I'm gonna have to do a lot of defending of it. Or I'm gonna face the wrath of like my family and friends outside of this podcast sphere.
I
need this movie to be good. Like I need it more than anything.
I'm just ready for the scenario where like the main narrative of this movie is that Ariana Grande is like bad in it. That like obviously she has some kind of acting experience with what was the show that she was on? She was on some like Disney Channel or something, right? Or Nickelodeon?
Yeah, it was on not Degrassi. It was
she's been in stuff, but she's never been in anything like this scale of a large scale.
Victorious, that's what it was.
Victorious.
Yeah.
She's never been in a movie like this. So I think it's in the cards that the main takeaway from this movie is that she just does not have it, that it just does not work.
I don't think that will happen.
Okay.
I think Ariana Grande is an angel. I think she is the pop star of our generation, and I think that she can act. I mean, it's not just that she's done a lot of theater work, including like playing Glinda the Good Witch in Wicked performances and stuff like that. Like she has.
She already did this role on
stage.
Think
not on Broadway, but she's done it on stage, and she has done some off Broadway work before. She can act. So I'm not. I feel like she has that in her. I think that what I'm worried about is it's the guy who made Crazy Rich Asians that
John M. Chu.
And I kind of like the way that like how cartoonish almost everything looks in the trailer, but I am a little bit worried that once we get in there, a lot of the shots can look over campy to the point of looking bad. Also, this is only half of a movie, and they tried to hide that because they got rid of the Wicked Part 1. But this movie's going to end with her singing Defying Gravity, and then it's not going to conclude. We're going to have to wait for another movie to that. And you know how I feel about incomplete stories in a movie. Mm-hmm. Like, just give me a fucking longer movie. So there's some hesitations. There's some holdups there. I want this movie to be good so bad because, like, this is, if I was going to poll the Mobley family right now on their most excited movie for the year, it's this and Moana 2 that we're just all in for.
You want to give a gut check for Moana 2? I didn't even write that one down.
Moana 2, I'm a little bit more skeptical on because one, it was originally a television show that got remastered into a movie, which is always a little bit of like what about this? Also, no Lin-Manuel Miranda. As much as I like to clown on the guy, the music in Moana is amazing. Yeah. It's so fucking good. I think it might be the best thing that Lin-Manuel Miranda has ever done, and knowing that he wrote Hamilton and The Heights and everything else. So I'm at like a 3 for Moana 2. And probably around like a 3.5 for Wicked 2 as well.
Oh, okay.
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay. A complete unknown. The Timmy as Bob Dylan, James Mangold.
Coming out this year for sure.
Yeah. They played the trailer before Alien. And
okay, I didn't know they got a
Christmas.
release date. It did get a Christmas date.
Mm-hmm.
I'm entering my Bob Dylan phase as I get into my 30s here. So I'm at like a 3.5. James Mangold knows how to make biopics. He knows how to make good Look at Walk the Line. It's a good biopic.
I think that Timmy, this could be his moment.
Do you think this is Oscar?
Yeah.
Oscar chance?
Yeah.
His first real one.
Especially because it's like they're not going to give it to him for Dune. Like that would never happen in a million years. So it's just like if you have a big Dune presence at the Oscars, it helps. The momentum is there.
I could see that happening for a lot, like that, what you're kind of talking about here happening for a handful of things. Cause I could also see, I'm sure that's on your list too, but Queer, the Lika Guadagnino movie being a celebration, not just for queer, but also for challengers, but
Right.
challengers isn't quite buzzy enough to get awards hype. So it's kind of like we're voting for this person for like their body of work and not so much for this one singular piece of art. I'm a maybe 3.5, 4 is a little low. I am really excited for this. I think it's gonna be good.
What about Queer?
Queer, I mean, at least a 4. I'm excited for it. It's our boy.
I mean, there's a lot of festival movies that I could list out that it's kind of just a big question mark. You know, because
it's hard to say for sure.
We don't, things like Conclave and Blitz and Night Bitch and The End and Nickel Boys, The Piano Lesson. Like there is just a big lineup of festival stuff that we're going to start to learn more about as these premieres happen.
Yeah,
but right now it's kind of hard to give a gut check on if all we know is just the bare basics of who's involved.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I am excited for Queer though, just because it's Daniel Craig and everything. Like I that's another one where we are really, really starting to ramp up into award season in a way it's felt different this year than it has in years past, partially because of the COVID years. Everything was weird and out of balance. And then with Everything Everywhere and with Oppenheimer, it felt like we were getting these big Oscar frontrunners earlier than we had ever gotten them in the past. Like usually it's always something in November, October, November, December. Like that's whenever things are starting. And it's much more of that, like it's much more of a sprint than a marathon of a push of trying to get everything out. And this is starting to shape up like a lot more of a classic year.
Which we'll get into in a second with a movie you got a chance to see. But real quick, last two, Speak No Evil and Y2K.
Speak No Evil's at 5, so I don't have to watch the trailer before every single movie anymore. God, I was so excited for this movie, and I don't know about you, literally before every single movie, this trailer is playing.
Yep.
And shout out to them for pushing this movie, because whenever it first got announced, I kind of thought that it would just get dumped in August and disappear.
It's probably going to be a solid hit.
I think so, because they are marketing the ever living shit out of it. I hope that's good. I think the original Speak No Evil, I shouted it out a couple of years ago. I don't think it made my top 10, but it was in my honorable mentions. Really love that movie. So I'm excited for this one, for the remake. Yeah, I'm at like a 4.
And then Y2K, our boy, Kyle Mooney.
I'll be there.
Finally making something else after Brigsby Bear.
Yeah, I'll be there. I talked with a couple friends of the pod who went to South by this year, and they saw Y2K, and they said that it was good. That was kind of it. They said it was good.
Did you see the trailer?
I haven't seen the trailer yet. I've been trying to avoid it.
It doesn't look amazing.
Yeah. I've heard that
we got to be there for our guy.
Yeah, it's good. It's really fun. But it's just not anything amazing. But also they're like, I like Kyle Mooney. Their lives weren't changed by Kyle Mooney in the same way that ours were. So I'm hoping that will help buoy this to be something better than it is. I'm always scared of our boy. Like anytime he puts out anything, I just want it to be good so bad.
Yeah. Well, he's directing it too, which I think might be like, not the best, because Dave McCary did Brigsby Bear.
Yeah.
And that's not the case this time. We got Kyle in the big boy chair.
Didn't Kyle direct the Netflix show that he made?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that he did all of that.
Yes. So if there's any DNA from Saturday Morning All-Star Hits in this movie, that'll be awesome, because he makes some crazy choices in that show that could be well serviced in this story. It's obviously based on like the scare of 1999 going into 2000 of the world ending. That's like the basic premise of the story. And based on the trailer, it kind of feels like they're doing their version of This Is the End, with a little bit of Superbad in there. So it's like you're kind of getting the next generation's version of those Seth Rogen comedies that we used to get all the time that are now just a relic. So yeah, that's the upcoming movie season. Definitely a lot of variety in there. I didn't even list everything. There's so many other things coming out. I feel like it's not that much of a drought as we were fearing that it would be, especially now that we know a lot of these festival releases that are also in the mix. But let's talk about some stuff we've actually seen before rounding out the end of the episode. And let's start with a movie that you got a chance to see that may be probably the leader of the pack when it comes to this Oscar race. Sing Sing.
Yeah. So Sing Sing is the new movie that is from a first-time filmmaker. I think first-time like really guy, Greg Quidar. This was a movie that I saw, and it was the first time I had felt when seeing a movie this year of like, oh yeah, this movie, I could see this movie winning Best Picture in a way that I have not felt that way about any other movies that I've seen this year. No offense to Dune 2, which is one of the best movies that I've seen in many years. But like, even that, I did not have the same feeling walking away from it. Like, this is the clear front runner in the house. But walking out of Sing Sing, it feels like that this is going to be a movie that's going to be in the conversation for a bit. I think that this is kind of a near lock for the SAG Award for Best Cast. And the reason why I say that is because that is the real standout of this entire movie, because it is half, if not more, of the cast are real life inmates that are playing themselves. Or former inmates that are playing themselves, I should say.
Basically non-actors, essentially.
So, yeah. So for people who don't know, this is based off of a prison in New York State, called Sing Sing is the name of the penitentiary. And while it's telling the story of Divine G, who is a real life person who, during his time being wrongfully imprisoned in this prison for decades, he created a theater program and used this theater program as a little bit of a rehabilitation center for a lot of people, a lot of the inmates, letting it not just like them express themselves creatively, but have it be an outlet for them. Like one of the big themes in this movie is about how difficult it is for men, especially African-American men, to express themselves emotionally and to get out like what they're truly feeling inside, and how theater and acting can be the perfect outlet for something like that. I think this movie is like unbelievably powerful. It's something that, even if there are criticisms that I have with it from like storytelling perspectives, whenever it tries to be a little bit more conventional with its storytelling. But when you are in it, it is one of the most real feeling movies that I've felt in a long time. Like, it's a very different movie, but going back to Sean Baker, it almost reminded me of the first time that I saw The Florida Project, where it's like, this movie like hurts deeper because like I feel like I just like lifted the veil and I'm seeing something that is so true to life. At the forefront of this is Clarence Macklin, who plays the second leading performance. It's starring Coleman Domingo, who plays Divine G, but Clarence Macklin is a real life former inmate who is the number 2 in the cast. And he is an absolute revelation. Like, it's one of those truly A Star Is Born type performances that you see, and it's like, wow, who is this guy? Because he has such an incredible presence. This is going to be Coleman Domingo's Oscar. I feel pretty confident, unless Timothy Chalamet pending over here. We'll see what happens.
Or
but
Craig.
Coleman Domingo. Yeah.
Daniel. I think right now it's like, it's pretty, we are off to the races with these three at the top.
I haven't looked at Gold Derby in a couple months, so I don't really know what that's looking like for the leader in the clubhouse right now. But I do think Coleman Domingo is definitely, I think with the Rustin buzz that happened last year and getting a nomination for that, it feels like the wheels are greased a little bit for him.
Right. He's definitely going to get some residue from the run that he just had with that. Like he's not picking up back from zero. Like people are still Coleman Domingo is very much still like in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's incredible. Like everybody loves Coleman Domingo. He's one of those like universally approved guys. Nobody's like, I fucking hate Coleman Domingo. It's such an incredible movie. Like it's kind of, I hesitate to get too much into the story. I will say that it avoids a lot of the pitfalls that I was worried that a movie like this would. Like it's not an origin story. We pick up midway through Divine G's sentence that's happening. The theater program is already well in motion whenever it's happening. It's really jumping in right at the point when we are introduced to the Clarence Macklin, his character joining the theater. And I think that's such a smart move to make it because nobody cares about seeing an origin story and seeing us all start from scratch. We don't have time for that. It's just a really beautiful movie, and I can't recommend it enough. It had me ugly sobbing at a couple points while watching this movie.
It's a story. This is something that the Oscars love to do, right? It's a story that should be told, right? It's putting it's the magic of movies putting a spotlight on a story that is very much a real part of our world and our society that doesn't usually get the spotlight. Right. Yeah. So the idea of returning citizens, convicted felons, giving humanity to them is just something that you don't see a lot. So it's great for that to be part of the narrative.
It's one of those things where it does feel like the dumb adjective is it does feel important whenever you're watching it, but it's very well made. And it is a story that needs to be told. I'm almost like, I feel like I'm bracketing some of my thoughts on this because I'm ready for this movie it's going to go through the ringer that all these movies, these awards movies go through whenever it's happening. But I do think that this is very clearly going to be at the forefront. One, because it is like hashtag important, and also because it is a movie about the importance of acting and how acting can be an outlet. And the actors branch is the biggest branch of the Academy. So that is why I think that this is kind of the clear front runner for Best Picture right now. I think it's a worthy winner without seeing the rest of the candidates, obviously. Like this is not going to be a CODA situation. This is not going to be a situation where we're seeing something that is just socially important, but not well made. It's a very well executed movie. I'm really excited to see it again because of the way that the story and some of the narratives that's trying to tell, going back and revisiting the movie and revisiting some of the characters, because to be honest, I did not realize how many non-actors there were in this movie until the credits rolled. And it's like, wow, oh my God, that guy's he's just another inmate, another former inmate who was there. Like it's crazy. You
saw it at the Enzian, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Local.
Unfortunately,
local
very limited, very, very limited.
Yeah, I'm sad I missed it, and it's gone now. They're doing this is very much a deliberate play by A24 to build hype, but they're doing a very, very slow rollout, just like very slowly adding more theaters. I guess that's smart. You kind of keep that demand high. But yeah, I'm excited to check it out. It's Sing Sing. I'm looking at Gold Derby right now, and it is #1 for Best Picture and for Best Actor. Yeah. So, and I'm shocked to see Daniel Craig down at #7 for Best Actor on Gold Derby.
What are we looking at right now?
So for Best Actor, we got Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes in Conclave, Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker Folie à Deux, John David Washington in The Piano Lesson, and Paul Mescal in Gladiator 2, and then Daniel Craig in Queer.
Paul Mescal over Daniel Craig is wild.
I
Yeah,
think it's
I don't
because
know.
I
I guess
think it's
we'll
because
see.
he got nominated for After Sun, and I don't think Daniel Craig has ever been nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess to make and with both those movies being such unknown, it's just like let's just default to past performance. So yeah, that's Sing Sing. I'm really excited for you guys to check it out to talk about it more in depth.
Real quick before we get to the two main ticket items, I just wanted to shout out the Bikeriders. I got a chance to see it. We don't have time to get into it too much because we're running long, but I really loved it. It's kind of a sad story of the toll of masculinity on these men, these bike riders, and the one woman that's stuck in between them, Jodie Comer, who kind of runs away with the movie a little bit.
Okay,
She's so good in it.
You know what's so funny about that movie is that Jodie Comer, I almost felt like she was simultaneously the best and the worst part about that movie because like she is definitely like kind of steals the movie in scenes, but also like disrupts the chemistry of us just hanging out with the boys and me
Right.
just hanging out with Austin Butler and Tom Hardy and
Yeah.
their bromance together.
Yeah, but she is kind of like the glue that holds the story together because it's based on a photography book of these bike riders in their leather jackets. But I found the movie like, I don't know, kind of emotionally devastating because it is very much this tale of masculinity and how it just breaks these people down and how they're trapped in their own like fabricated versions of themselves. and how the image that they feel like they have to portray to the world is actually crumbling them from the outside. Really sad movie by the end, and I felt very like touched by it, very kind of affected by it, mainly because of the performances. I thought Austin Butler was incredible in this.
Yeah.
Like I just got chills watching him be a movie star on the screen. It took my breath away. I was like, oh my God, is this like one of the next great movie stars? Just am I watching like the birth of the next I don't know, Paul Newman or something like that? It feels special.
It really is. It's funny that I know that obviously Austin Butler's like 10 years younger than him, but it almost feels like Glenn Powell is going to like the Tom Cruise school of movie stardom, where he's like, you have to always be the smiling good guy. Like you have to like be the one who he's got the charisma and always gets the girl and everything else. And what Austin Butler's doing, his route is like so much more interesting. Like he is really taking a lot of like wild choices and is not afraid to play the heavy in something like Dune 2 or playing these like really like broken characters in something like the Bikeriders. Like he is just this emotionally, he's unable to articulate like anything that he is genuinely feeling. And it's kind of, that's where like the Jodie Comer character really comes into play. And makes her important. I think that the accent kind of got me. I'm gonna be honest. It's
all
Jodie
of the
Comer.
Accents.
Jodie Comer and Tom Hardy
you can't have them.
Accenting off there like, I was talking to my girl Julie and she told me to just never stay away from those boys. You gotta stay away from those boys in the biker jackets.
It works in the context of this really what this movie's doing. It works,
but it's definitely a choice. There are lots of choices being made in this. I think that it's just the thing where it's like tonally I either wanted it to be Goodfellas or I wanted it to have more of those through lines of the destruction, really about the end of this culture. And I just taken over by drugs and violence.
I just found it to be just this really sad portrait of these guys who they're basically it honestly feels like they are gay, like they're homosexuals who are unable to be themselves. And not that every single character in this movie is that, but like the feeling of it is that they can't commit to who they want to be. So they mask it with this performance of hyper masculinity and it destroys them. And society tells them that they can't be themselves. So they try to be this other thing that they think they're supposed to be. And it absolutely tears them apart. So that's kind of like the sadness that I really connected with. And yeah, love the accents. Love the accents.
Band it down.
Okay. Let's get to the two big movies that are out in theaters right now. Trap and Alien Romulus. Let's talk Trap first, and we'll keep that conversation a little shorter so that we can have a little bit more of a spoilery extended conversation about Alien Romulus before we end the podcast. So Trap is the new movie by M. Night Shyamalan, stars Josh Hartnett as the Butcher, a serial killer who attends a concert with his daughter. And guess what? The concert's a trap. It's a trap to catch him. What did you think of Trap, dude?
So here's the thing about Trap. Is it a great movie? No. Does it work in like a storytelling method and like a satisfying narrative method? No, not really. Did I have an absolute blast while watching this movie? You bet your ass I did. I really, really enjoyed Trap, and it's honestly my favorite movie that M. Night has done since The Village.
Wow.
Which I know that bar is really low because it's the thing that's like, oh my God, your favorite movie in 20 years. And you look at it's like the competition is old.
After Earth.
It's Avatar, The Last Airbender. It's like the bar is like in the pits. Like it doesn't get any lower than that. I think that this is kind of what M. Night does that I enjoy the best, which is whenever he is more willing to have fun with the premise. Because M. Night's kind of the king of just like the one line elevator pitch log line on what your movie is. You go to a concert and it's a trap. Like that's it. You know exactly what you're getting. The third act of this movie is like kind of actively bad. But
this movie kind of lost me at the end.
Because it's an M. Night movie, it has to become about like how you're actually only evil because like your mommy didn't love you enough, because M. Night loves to make that be the tie-in for everything else. But I really think this movie kind of sinks or swims on Josh Hartnett. And I loved Josh Hartnett in this movie. Like, I thought that he was absolutely excellent in this, despite all the logical flaws of this concert having like 3 different intermissions with the same stage the entire time in costumes. Nothing's actually changing. It's like a goddamn airplane terminal outside of the theater the entire
everyone's
time
there
performing.
The same amount of people that are in the actual concert are also out. There's
20,000 people just like getting hot dogs at the same time while Lady Raven is performing. It's nonsense, and I had a great time.
I might put Hartnett down for our critics group ballot. Like I have him in the running right now. I don't think that'll stick.
He's on my long list.
But he's phenomenal in this movie. I totally agree about the last third or so. The movie takes a turn and it just doesn't work. I could see the magic happening on screen and I was not connecting with it at all. Alison Pill is in this movie and she is introduced way too late into the story. By the time her and Hartnett are cooking, acting their asses off, I just was not invested in that. Like I could not connect to the work that they were putting on screen, and they were doing a great job. It's just the setup for what is happening in that climactic scene between the two of them is really shaky, really shaky, and it doesn't like fully fall apart. Like I don't hate the movie. Just because I was kind of out on it doesn't mean that I came away from this movie hating it. I would still give it like a positive rating. But it is that M. Night thing where he just can't help himself. He can't help himself. Exactly. He can't get out of his own way. And this movie doesn't do it doesn't go as far as Old and Knock at the Cabin do in terms of like really layering on the craziness as we zoom out and discover more of this world. It doesn't kind of go that far, but it does enough for you to be like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What's going on?
There isn't really any kind of major twist. Like, it's a little bit of one that you get towards the very end, but like the movie kind of is
like the final moment, it's going to be, if you want to call that a twist, like literally.
Yeah, but even still, the movie, I think that I almost found that refreshing because it was like he got a little bit out of his own head. Like Old is one of the worst versions of that, where they're like, oh, they're actually like there's a weird lab that's happening. It's like, I don't care. I do not care. This is so dumb. You're just doing this because of the twist thing. The moment that I learned that Lady Raven was M. Night's daughter, I was like,
so this is the tough part about this movie.
That makes sense. That's what it is. That's what's happening here.
He has his daughter, who is great in the first half of the movie as Lady Raven, just being a musical performer. He has her be like a core actor in the second half of the story. And I am so sorry, but it does not work at all.
Yeah.
It is unfortunately like I
actually think that there's some fun choices made like in the storytelling of like how the characters are going to get out of certain situations. I was like, oh, that's a cool creative idea. But I'm sorry, Salika, I just don't think that you have the chops.
The acting chops are not there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's tough. But I agree with you. I enjoyed the movie. I had a good time. There's just when you go into an M. Night movie, you have to understand that you are going to see people talk and behave in ways that are not realistic. Yeah. And you can't really budge against that too much because that is part of the package. It's just
that's the M. Night experience.
It doesn't make sense to complain that that's a thing when that is literally it has become his style at this point.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but there are just so many points in this movie where you are left thinking like, in what world, even if this is not our world, in what world would this logically make any sense at all?
I also forgot to mention that it's like, so Lady Raven's the equivalent of like Ariana Grande, right?
Yeah.
So she's performing a concert. She performs the entire concert. The concert ends. It's like 2 p.m. It's broad daylight.
He has a line at the very beginning where he's like, oh, I'm really glad they added this afternoon show because the other one sold out. Isn't that great?
Why? Like, why did they do that? You could have just
because it's a trap, Hunter. Because the entire concert is a trap. That's why they did it. That's why they added it. It's a trap.
Dumb. The way that some of the characters talk to each other is like the most insane thing that I've ever, including M. Night himself, because it's an M. Night movie, so he has to cast himself in there. He's just like, hey, buddy, you know what? You and your daughter, why don't you go backstage? Like, it's all so like levels of nonsensical. One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie comes right at the very end when, without spoiling, Josh Hartnett's about to do a kill, and inexplicably, he just takes his shirt off before the kill.
Yes.
For no reason whatsoever. Just to show that Josh Hartnett's hot. Like, that is the only reason. He's just like, before I murder you, let me take my shirt off real quick
and
just
fold
like
it neatly.
And fold it neatly here. It's nonsense. It's like, it's M. Night is the probably the quintessential example of like, if an alien came down and tried to make a human movie, it is pretty much like AI trying to make a movie with human beings.
But his movies weren't always bad. Like, he used to make great movies. It's just that's not the case anymore. You know,
I don't know what happened, man. It's the village. He used up all of his juice in that one, and that's kind of it.
Something broke.
We're
and
never getting back there.
I always hope that it's gonna come back. I go into all these movies thinking maybe this is the one where it comes back, and it's just not the case. But that being said, I do think it's important to continue to give him his flowers, because there's something about him. Even if you think this movie's bad, like, I can't really disagree with you. I enjoyed it, but there's nothing else like Trap. It's just,
yeah.
And you can say that about Knock at the Cabin, another movie that's not great. You can say the same thing about Old. Like, all these movies, no one is doing what M. Night is doing. It's, even if it doesn't work, the fact that he is allowed to take swing after swing, I think should be commended. And it sucks that it just doesn't connect and it doesn't fully click time and time again. But I think there's something special about being able to have this weird character-driven psycho thriller about a guy taking his daughter to a concert. Like, that's just, there's no other movie like that, you know?
It's just an incredible pitch, and it doesn't really come together. But I do think that despite the logical gaps, I think that Josh Hartnett gives good enough of a performance, and the pacing is quick enough in the first 2/3 of the movie that I was still engaged. I was never bored with this movie until, like, towards the end, when it's like, we got to wrap this thing up now. Like, we are really meandering here. But I think that while the trap itself is happening, it's all good things.
So we didn't love it,
fun,
but we enjoyed it, I think, is the main takeaway, and we'll probably show up for the next one. And I would say I think I would probably put this below Old, even though Old is way, way stupider. But I think I like this more than Split and Knock at the Cabin. Definitely like it way more than Glass, because that movie just sucked.
Glass sucks. Glass is a bad movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Harry, friend of the pod. I think this is, here's the thing. Knock at the Cabin bummed me out because that movie was just, like, boring. And I don't often find M. Night boring. Even whenever he's bad, I don't find him boring.
I also feel like the potential for that movie was way bigger. Like, I feel like that movie didn't deliver on what could have been. Yeah. That could have been a way cooler movie.
Honestly, that was, like, one of the most COVID movies. It's like that and Malcolm and Marie are, like, the two biggest COVID productions I can think of, where it's like, let's just get, like, 4 actors and put them in one house together. Like, that's just literally what it was, and it feels very much of a time. It's interesting that you like this more than Old, or that you like Old more than this. I think that Old has some really cool ideas and maybe some better sequences, but Old, I was kind of bored with the shtick earlier on than I was with Trap.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, that's Trap. Let's get into Alien Romulus, the new movie from Fede Alvarez. Is it Fede or Fede?
Fede. It's not Fede Wap.
Okay. It is the latest entry in the Alien franchise. Notably a departure from what Ridley Scott was doing with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Alien Covenant came out in 2017, so this is the newest Alien movie since then. Not a continuation of the story in those movies with Michael Fassbender. Who knows if we'll ever get a third entry in that trilogy? I would love to see it, but this is very much its own thing. But it is connected to the original Ridley Scott movie. It is essentially kind of set in that same era. We're going to get into some specifics in spoilers as to how it very much directly ties into that movie. But we get a great selection of young actors in this cast, led by Kaylee Spaney, who's having a bit of a moment right now, coming off of Civil War and Priscilla. and David Johnson as Andy, the android, who I think is by far the best part of this movie.
Yes, 100%.
I was very excited for this movie. I thought the trailers looked great. I thought the overall approach of the look and the style and the aesthetic that they were selling just looked phenomenal. And my wife Lee is a huge fan of Alien and Aliens, so we rewatched both of them in anticipation of this one. Also, she also tried to get me into the larger Alien universe with Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, which also star Sigourney Weaver. Maybe I'll give those a shot. I gave Alien 3 a shot, the David Fincher one, and it just didn't click. It didn't quite work. So maybe
if it helps, David Fincher doesn't think that movie works. So I think that
there's something cool in there. It's like a prison planet. It's grimy. It's dirty. There's some good stuff in there, but it didn't. That was not the priority. The priority was the original Ridley, the James Cameron Aliens, to gear up for Romulus, and then we went out on a date night to see Romulus, and I thought the movie had some incredible stuff in it, particularly the first half. I thought was kind of incredible, but there are some really weird and bad choices in this movie that don't quite ruin it, but keep it from being a great film. Like, I thought, sitting there watching the buildup of this movie, I thought it has an amazing buildup that harkens back to the original. It was just a very slow build. I thought, oh my God, did they do it? Is Fede like gonna give us something truly special here? Could we have like something close to the level of those, what are essentially like some of the best movies of all time, like true masterpieces of cinema with Alien and Aliens? And that's just not what this is, and maybe it was never destined to be, maybe it's not fair to kind of give it that set of expectations. I really think that that's very unrealistic, but the movie is reminding you of those films. It very much wants to be attached and in conversation with those films. So you can't help but be thinking these things. And so walking out of the theater, I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I was very much, the main thoughts in my mind were the things that this movie did poorly rather than the things that it did right. And it does a lot of things right. I think there's so many amazing things about this movie, but the stuff that's not so good, the stuff that's bad,
it sticks out. It sticks out really bad.
It's a bit overshadowing. So we'll get into some specifics, but what are your thoughts on Alien Romulus?
I'm pretty lockstep with you on where you eventually settled with this movie. I do think that like it is some of the best production design that I have seen in just any sci-fi movie in a really long time. Like, they really, really nailed this analog feeling to the Alien universe whenever they're getting up in there. I like that it was just the setup of it being like a bunch of kids. It's not super scientists. It's not military or anything else. It's just some guys that are just trying to get off of this like horrible mining prison planet that they're on right now.
No sun.
Which the whole design and how grimy that felt is just very, very cool. I think that it starts out pretty excellently, that whole first third. And then we'll get to it in spoilers, but like there's the introduction of a character into the story. And I think that the movie never recovers from that decision. It is like both simultaneously like a movie that is extremely well crafted. The splatter horror elements are extremely well executed, while also simultaneously being like one of the most creative bankrupt things that I've seen in a long time. Like, it is something that felt it felt bad while watching it. At one point I was like, is this kind of evil while watching this, that we're doing the things that this movie is doing? It felt icky. And I think that is what I'm assuming that's kind of what you're feeling about how like the bad kind of overshadowing the good whenever you're leaving the theater, is that I was thinking of a lot of those parts. There's even like some callbacks to the original that are just like dumb and like don't even make sense, of like characters saying a line of like a "get away from her, you bitch." That's just like a why did we even feel the need to do things like that? But also, this movie does have some fucking incredible set pieces. Like it does the horror thing really well. There's a face hugger sequence that is in the trailers where they all just start bursting out and running, and it is really affecting.
Yeah.
It's really affecting. It creates the same feeling of like whenever you see like a big spider outbreak or something like that, of them like moving around. It's like, oh God, I can feel them crawling around me. Like,
and it's things it's things that I feel like we've always wanted to see in an Alien movie.
Yeah.
Right. We're so deep into this franchise that this movie is almost like, I think that one of the things that's not great about it, but what are you going to do? It's very much a movie for the fans, right?
Yeah,
it's like
the fans.
Yeah, the fucking fans. It's very much a movie about like, we know that you know these movies, and we're going to give you these hits of nostalgia and of new things that you've always wanted to see in these movies. What is it like to be killed by the acid blood? To have the acid blood drip over a guy and kill him?
They do some sick stuff with the acid blood in this movie. And like, that's what I'm talking about. Where like Fede definitely does have some ideas in this. And I say this as not a big Fede Alvarez fan.
I don't think I've seen any of his movies. Don't Breathe.
I'm not a big fan of the Evil Dead remake. I know that has a lot of fans, but I love the original Evil Dead movies, and like that ain't it. Like I think that's some of the kills and some of the ideas are much more well executed in Romulus than even in the Evil Dead remake. But even still, I do think that you can see like why his vision, why they chose him to reboot this franchise, especially coming after Prometheus and especially Covenant, which were not as successful as Fox wanted them to be. Ridley was off really focused in on like, how can we make a story about like how aliens are actually gods, and this is the xenomorph story we want to tell. The thing is that I love Prometheus. I really, really love that movie. It's our boy Lindelof.
It's an amazing movie, but it's not really an alien movie. When I talked to Lee about this, the kind of like what she sees as a major failing of Prometheus is that no one wants to see that be in relationship to Alien.
Yeah.
And my response is just like, Ridley Scott should do whatever the fuck he wants to do.
Have you heard about Ridley? I don't know if I think it was in like an interview they did around the time of, maybe it was around Covenant, not around Prometheus, where he like had this whole thing about he's just like, actually, Jesus Christ was one of the engineers, and the xenomorphs are coming back to Earth to kill the humans because they murdered one of their own.
Oh my God.
Like, these are the things that Ridley Scott is thinking about right now.
See this.
This is what Ridley is thinking of in his brain, is like how like we as humans are actually the failures, and we should really let the xenomorphs take over all of us. Like they were in the right. And
he tried to continue that with Covenant, a movie I rewatched last night, actually, because I'm just so curious just how it would feel in comparison to Romulus. I actually found it worse than Romulus. I remember being a bit of a defender of Covenant back when it came out, not like head over heels for it or anything, but I loved Prometheus. So of course I was going to also be defensive of its follow-up. And I found it to be an extremely compromised movie that tries to be a sequel to Prometheus and the ideas in that film, but doesn't commit to that, and is buried under what feels like a response to Prometheus, which is the fact that Prometheus,
not enough kills. Yeah.
Well, not enough alien. Like, you have Prometheus with barely I don't think there even is a xenomorph in Prometheus. They add it to Covenant, and it kind of works, but not really. And by the time you're watching kind of the final set piece, confrontation action sequence, it just doesn't click. And on the flip side, in Romulus, the entire last act of this movie is just a lining up of dominoes one by one of set piece after set piece after set piece. And it really feels like you are on rails, like you're on this track of just going through the Alien movies, like the kind of reliving the greatest hits of this entire franchise. And you brought up, creative bankruptcy. I think that definitely applies to this, and the fact that we're not trying to do something new as Ridley tried with his movies. We're kind of just rehashing what worked before. But if it worked then and we're kind of redoing it, it kind of works now. And it is a diluted version, definitely. But I found myself enjoying it. And it's cheap. It's not innovative, but it is effective. And we can get into the specifics and spoilers.
No, I do. I agree. And I want to move to spoilers pretty soon, because I say all this to say that, like, the ending, the last like 20 minutes or so did really work for me. I think my biggest issue is whenever the actual story is happening in that whole middle chunk where it gets really bogged down, and like it's simultaneously not an interesting xenomorph or engineer story, and also doesn't really have any great kills aside from like chest bursting out of the shaved head.
Yes.
Like
that was really good.
That, like, there's kind of just a long stretch there where not a lot happens.
Yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed it with reservations, I think, is kind of where I'm at with this movie.
Yeah. I wasn't bummed. I wasn't that disappointed, maybe slightly disappointed, but overall, I feel like this movie does what it's trying to do very well. And I disagree with some of the choices. We're going to talk about them momentarily, but ultimately, I do think that this is a good time at the movies if you want a nice late summer horror alien death fest. So let's get into spoilers for Alien Romulus. Let's talk about the big thing that everyone's talking about. Last chance to pause and come back once you've actually seen the movie. But the main, one of the big kind of big plot things that happens in this movie is the return of Ian Holm, kind of reprising his role as Ash from the original film. His name is Rook in this movie, so they're kind of doing the Fassbender thing where it's an android,
the same guy
that's different models of the same android, and they just have different names. But Hunter, did you know that Ian Holm passed away? Like 4 years ago.
Yeah, sure fucking did. That's what I meant. When I saw it, I was taken aback, but I was like, could almost like, you see him at first like laying there, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is just like one of those models.
They obscure it a lot. There's a lot of shots that are kind of in shadow before you get the close up.
Yeah. And then dead Ian Holm has like the third most lines in the entire movie. Like, he becomes a central character. And also he looks like a PS5 character.
It's really bad. It looks really, like really shit. Bad.
So it's like, this is like the thing that like, it was so appalling that it fully took me out of the movie. Where one, just from like a visual standpoint, it looks like shit. He looks like a video game character. It does not look well.
I think there's a couple shots that aren't that bad. Mostly the shots where he's not speaking.
Yeah, no. When he moves his head or something, it's like, ew, what is that? What am I looking at right now? The fuck?
Kill it.
I want to fucking stomp on it like it's a face hugger. No, it's a thing where it's just like he's talking and moving. So like it doesn't look great. Number two, I get that Ian Holm played an android in the story. He is still a dead actor, and you are resurrecting his corpse to and then just using like AI, I'm assuming, to just kind of make him speak and use Ian Holm's voice. And that's what I mean when I'm just like, this feels evil. Like it feels icky when I'm watching this. It feels bad. I don't know why more people, maybe I'm just like the old man here in this situation, that more people aren't just like truly mortified by this in the same way that I am. But I was pretty horrified when I saw this happening.
It's a terrible choice. They should have never done it. Fede has tried to defend it. I think on the big picture, he said that they felt like it was the right choice because Ian Holm was wronged by Hollywood and he would have loved to reprise this role. And he was the only android that never recurred. Bishop recurred, Fassbender recurred. Like you had this through line of like the android characters being able to come back, and he never did. But this is fucking Disney. This is Disney doing their Disney disgusting shit all over Alien. It's the same thing they did in Rogue One with the man who played Tarkin in the original Tarkin, Star Wars in the original Star Wars movie, a guy who'd been dead way longer, and they brought him back for Rogue One. It feels disgusting. It feels wrong, and it honestly feels like it wasn't even necessary. Like even in Star Wars, in Rogue One, I could see the argument there for why that character needs to be a part of that story. It's like, okay, yes, I could see it. But this is like, dude, there's no reason for that. You could cast any actor in that role. You don't need to bring back a dead actor. It's not a requirement.
It's also a thing where Tarkin is like, I don't know, and like has like 2 or 3 lines in it. Like that's
there's
it.
There's a couple extended scenes where you do see the horrible, disgusting CGI face.
It is gross. Like it does look bad, but like that's still such a smaller part of that movie as a whole. Again, dead Ian Holm's fucking Weekend at Bernie's corpse is just out there and has like the 3rd most lines in this entire movie. Like it doesn't look good enough, and it's not well executed enough, and it's not pertinent enough to the plot to ever have been included. Like I don't really know how they got away with doing this. It's insane to me. It is such a wild choice. Not to mention that just like that, whenever I'm talking about it dragging in the middle, that's whenever we are really digging into the Rook stuff.
Yeah.
Because none of that stuff works. And we get to the best thing that comes out of it is that we get to see a little bit of range from our boy David Johnson. But
he's so good in this.
He's great in it. But it's not because of like the script, especially in this section of it, because he's just playing.
It's just the performance
robot. Then,
yeah. Well, I found the turn that he has really well done, where he goes from being kind of this malfunctioning, kind of low IQ robot to now this hyper functioning machine that is there to serve the company. And I didn't expect this movie to be about anything, but I was curious in the setup if it was going to have some deeper ideas. And it seemed like it was going to maybe be about Wayland Yutani and how oppressive of a force they are, and how horrible it is to be almost like a slave to this corporation. And the movie doesn't really explore that too much. But there are little bits throughout that tie into that theme of what it's like in this world to be uh, to have everything function as an extension of this super powerful like mega corporation, Weyland-Yutani. I like those bits. I really like this world, and I'm so fascinated by the expansion of it. I'm really excited for that Alien Earth show that Noah Hawley has been working on for a long time, coming next year. So there's little things in there that flesh out the mythos without going into all the Prometheus, who is our god stuff. So I really love, like I said, the setup, the first half of the movie where we're kind of just in the world. We're kind of getting this look at life on this colony, stuff that we haven't really seen before in these movies. But yeah, once we get Ian home, the movie really takes a turn. I did think it was necessary to have some of the exposition dump stuff because I was questioning. We do get that little bit at the very, very beginning of the xenomorph, like the fossilized xenomorph being taken into the ship. But I was thinking, like, why is this giant ship just abandoned?
Yeah.
And why is there a farm full of face hugger eggs? There were just a lot of questions as to like what is happening here that I did need a bit of the exposition dump, but it didn't have to be AI deepfake Ian Holm doing it.
I think that's, and I don't know if you kind of feel the same way as me, but I thought that's Ian Holm aside. I thought that this movie was more successful whenever it was trying to emulate Alien and much less successful when it was trying to emulate Aliens.
Right.
Like whenever it was more focused on the true small scale body horror, that feeling of claustrophobia, the unknown that's there. I think that works. When I guess it's teetering into the third act there, but whenever it's just like we have a tunnel and there's like hundreds of xenomorphs that are in there, aside from the zero gravity floating through the alien blood, which is a cool set piece. I don't think that any of that stuff works as well. The like whole like having a pulse rifle and everything else in there, I didn't find any of that as interesting or as well executed as that analog stuff that we're talking about in the very beginning. It doesn't feel as tactile.
I just think this because no one's Big Jim. No one can touch Big Jim.
You ain't Jim.
Like this, I think that the achievement of Aliens is so much of those little details that you can't just regurgitate them and feel like you can approach that same level of perfection in Aliens. I don't know, maybe there was more work put into some of the other stuff that is hearkening back to the Ridley version of the universe rather than the Cameron. But yeah, you're right. And also, like I said earlier, I haven't watched all these movies, but it goes even further than that. The little little baby guy that comes out.
Okay.
That is a resurrection. That is a resurrection thing, from what I know. I haven't seen Resurrection, but that might be for like the real sickos that love Alien Resurrection. They're like, oh my god, it's that fucker.
So I did not know that was an Alien Resurrection reference, but I will say, whenever that little fucking freaky boy popped on out of there, I cackled in my seat. I was like, this rocks. I love this.
The movie was kind of back. It was kind of back for a minute.
When he starts to go in to suckle on Mother's teeth, I was like, let's go. Let's go. We're here. We're back.
Is that you?
I was like, this is so weird. Like, why didn't the rest of the movie have this level of weirdness? And then it just kind of becomes like whatever. But like, I really loved that whole sequence.
I'm very mixed on this whole final section of the movie because I could feel it being so herky-jerky and inconsistent in a way that I didn't feel in the setup. For me, the setup, the buildup was very clean, very well done. Not perfect. I mean, I have a lot of complaints about these Riz Gen Z pirates.
Dude,
I kind of fucking
who's
hate
that
some of
one
these guys.
No, dude, that one Cockney bastard. Who the fuck is that guy?
I hate that guy.
He's like the worst guy that I have seen in a movie.
His name is
that I can
Spike
remember.
Fern.
No, yeah, fuck you, Spike.
Yeah. All I could think about is guys used to look like Harry Dean Stanton in Alien. Why can't we get a guy that looks like that in this movie?
I want to start like modeling my wardrobe after Harry Dean Stanton in Alien, honestly.
And not
That's
just
the vibe
him.
that I want.
The whole cast
Everybody,
of that movie
yeah.
is just grimy
yeah.
and full of personality. And these guys in this movie in Romulus, they're a little too clean. You know, they're not as rugged and dirty and lived in. And the movie goes a long way to render the world, you know, that analog thing that you mentioned is very prevalent. And they do a lot of work to try to make it seem as close to that movie, the original movie, as possible. But there's still this filter, this clean filter over so much of it.
The problem is that in the same way that they can never recreate the scale of Big Jim and Aliens, they can never recreate the whole moment of the first time that you see Alien and you think that it is going to be an ensemble movie, and then slowly the chest burster scene happens, and then just all fucking chaos breaks loose.
Gone.
And it's like, that's one of those things where it's like, the audiences in 1979 were not expecting that. And if you were not seeing it for the first time, you're expecting it. Now going into Alien Romulus, it's like, all right, who's the lead? Kaylee Spaney? Yeah, she's going to be the one who lives. And then we can just kind of expect for all of these other guys to just be fucking redcoats. And like, they're all just going to die at some point in time.
And but that's part of the magic of these movies, you know, and that's something that I enjoyed even revisiting Covenant, is that there is something cool about being introduced to a bunch of people that you don't really like that much and then watching them all die. That there is a lot of enjoyment in that, right? Is like, I fucking hate this guy and he's gonna die an awesome, horrible death, and I'm gonna love to see it. That's part of the enjoyment here. But you know, to tie back to the original, you know, there are so many little things that movie does so perfectly that this one just can't do. And it's not just in the visuals, it's not just in the overall aesthetic, it's in the very deliberate pacing and the way in which you're introduced into this horror of this xenomorph. This movie is incapable of doing that because it is so invested in reminding you that it knows that you know, right? It knows that you're a fan.
Yeah.
So it can't let go of that. So that's why you get Ian Holm, and that's why you get him basically off jump describing how the xenomorph works and why you should be scared of it. The original movie, the part of the magic is that there is no explanation. These people are just in it, and so are you as the viewer. That you are given basically no info. It is just death. It is just madness and destruction and chaos. And you don't really get that in this movie. That so much of this movie feels very controlled and feels very much like, I don't want to say safe, but there is no sense of like things kind of spinning out of control as much.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. This goes back to what you were talking about earlier about the Disney-fied approach to this.
Exactly.
They are really, and this goes for most properties. I mean, this goes for most adult films at this point, but they are so scared of losing the audience.
Maybe it is safe. Maybe safe is the right word.
I think that is because they just want to make sure that like they are holding your hand and that you are still along for the ride and that they haven't lost you yet. Like that is the thing. They just want to bring along the masses with them, even if it is at the detriment overall to like the flow and the pacing of the story.
And a much more kind of untethered creative vision, right? Like part of the reason why Alien is so amazing is because there wasn't someone telling Ridley that he had to do all these things. He kind of went out on his own and made it happen, right? And that's not really what this movie is doing. It's that not to say that Fede didn't get to be creative. There's a lot of creativity in this movie, but it does feel like it is within the bounds of some kind of studio mandate. And in the end, the entire thing does feel like you are at a Disney ride. It just kind of feels like you're on those dark boat rides and you're just watching the action happen in front of you. And those rides can be great. Those rides can be immersive and you can feel like you are entering a world, but you're always in the car. You're always protected. You're never like left to be fully out there on your own. That's kind of the feeling that this movie gives you. And, it doesn't fully fall apart, but it keeps it from being something more than what it otherwise is.
Yeah, no, I will say I do think that like I do have a greater appreciation for Fede Alvarez like after seeing this movie, because I do think that he's somebody who he definitely had a sense of vision before in his other movies, but this was the first movie of his that I've seen where I was like, oh, he does really have an eye for these things. Like even something like the use the sound design and the shot of the spaceship, their little like floater spaceship that they come in that's spinning out of control and like cycling around the ship as they're about to crash into it. Like there's just a lot of really, really great creative choices that take place in this otherwise corporate schlocky movie.
Right.
And maybe, I think that it was always going to be schlock. And I've kind of, as somebody who like Alien is in my top 5 movies ever, it's my favorite sci-fi movie. I know what this franchise is, and I still have an enjoyment for most, if not all, of the entries in this franchise, even if they don't all work. But they are all kind of the same story at this point. There's coming very much. There's a hard cap on these movies.
Yeah, you're coming in for a very specific set of criteria when you come in for an Alien movie.
They've embraced just becoming a slasher movie. Like they're no different than a Friday the 13th movie.
Right. I guess the only difference is that now it's, you're making it for the fans, so you got to make the fans happy.
Yeah. You did compare this in our group chat to the Apes movie.
Right. Another Fox Disney movie,
which is also a movie that like very much wants to hold your hand. It's like, hey guys, remember the Planet of the Apes movies? Remember Caesar? We all love Caesar. Oh, okay, but we'll move on from. We're going to talk about how Caesar is really important.
I'm going to remind you.
And my biggest problem with that movie is like, yeah, you're reminding me of the movie that I liked more than this one as I was doing it. And the same criticism could be said about Romulus.
So a couple shout outs before we wrap up that I wanted to bring up. The zero gravity sequence. I liked it, but it made me appreciate Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning so much more. Whatever complaints I had about the train sequence in Dead Reckoning and how some of the stuff looked in that movie as the train carts are falling and stuff is like in some levels of zero gravity and whatnot. Holy shit, it looked way better than it did in this movie. Not that this movie looked bad, but it just reminded me of that sequence, and it just made me think like, man, this kind of looks a little cheap compared to Mission.
It was one of those things where the idea of zero gravity alien blood was cool, but then like in practice, it just kind of like
it's a little silly,
like stringy goo up in the air that they're just like swimming through. And yeah, it doesn't totally work.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things in the final act there that feel like we're just on a Disney ride. Like we're just going to the next room on the ride in the cart, and we're just turning a corner and like, oh wow, look at this. This is the aliens room, and this is the this is the elevator, and now this is the little fucker, the little alien hybrid guy. Which, by the way, that guy, I like that they tried it, because, you know, why not try something like that? It was laughable, a lot of it, just watching that guy fucking run
I was
around.
laughing. I had a fun, but here's the thing. I was like cackling when I saw it. Like, it made me laugh out loud, because I was like, what the fuck is that? Yeah. But like, I really don't know if I loved it or if I hated it. I think that overall I just enjoyed it, because it was something different.
Exactly.
It wasn't just, we weren't just having like another xenomorph on the escape pod with them. It had to be something else that was different and weird. And
right. I like that. And then there's just a bunch of little things. Like I said at the very beginning, there are great things in this movie that are just overshadowed by the stuff that doesn't work. Like the whole idea of them wanting to be in this paradise world with sunshine because they never see the sun on this planet, I thought is a great idea. And there's these moments where you see these characters like taking in the sunlight that they never got when they're on the actual planet. I love little moments like that. And I just thought that the whole setup of this space station and the research being done there, again, Ian Holm aside, I thought that was all really compelling. Just the idea of that ship and them, kind of reverse engineering the xenomorphs and the goop, the Prometheus goop. So yeah, lots of cool stuff in there. But again, there's just a lot of questionable stuff too. So you're kind of left with a bit of a mixed bag. And I think overall, good but not great with Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
With some big caveats and reservations.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can wrap it up there with Alien Romulus. Thank you all for listening. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, like, and comment. Let us know your thoughts on everything that we talked about on this episode. Check out weboughtamike.net to get every episode in your inbox. Thank you to all you beautiful donors at patreon.com/weboughtamike. You can join the Wabam Familia and help support this podcast with everything that we're doing and bringing you as we continue to cover the good stuff in the world of movies and television. Next week, I believe we are back to our series on the films of Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks with Saving Private Ryan, a Steven Spielberg film. And then the one after that is another Hanks, You've Got Mail. So the two sides of Hanks really there.
Yeah, really getting his two extremes here. 98.
Yeah. So we'll see you then.
Let's go.
Till then, just remember, in space, no one can hear you scream. Bye-bye.